Good morning and welcome to the Monday edition of the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and together with Benjamin Akakpo, we'll be steering intellectual and informative discourse right here on the AM show. But in a bit, I'll serve you the news, and then right after that, we get into the news review. Benjamin and I will be here to do that for you. After that, we get into AM Sports, where Muftau Nabila Abdullahi will present a segment, bringing you all the updates from the just ended AFCON finals and how the both countries fared. After that, we get into the big stories. Today, we continue our analysis of the policies presented by Vice President Dr. Kabiru Mahama. We'll be joined by technical advisor to the Vice President, Kabiru Mahama, to see where this goes and what exactly is in it. Also on the show, the Ghana Union of Traders Association has announced that it's intending to establish a social contract with presidential contenders in the upcoming 2024 elections. This agreement will be anchored on the candidates' economic agendas and manifesto pledges. Guta emphasizes that this decision aims to ensure that the business community and the Ghanaian populace hold the future president accountable for their promises. We'll delve into that as well on the show. And we've got our tabs on the deteriorating state of the Independence Square. We'll bring you updates on how that is also faring. And also some updates on the murder of the owner of the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, popularly known as Jirapa Dubai. All that coming up from now till 10 a.m. on the show. My name is Sweetie Abochi. It's time now for the news. Let's settle for that. Good morning. You're live on the AM show right here on Joy News, your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. This is the AM News on the AM show. Let's begin with President Akufo-Addo, who's described as unfortunate comments by former President John Dramani Mahama, questioning the authenticity of the recent West Africa Senior School certificate examination results. Former President Mahama had earlier said some invigilators relaxed on the job while teachers aided students in answering questions. Addressing the 187th Speech and Prize Giving Day at the Wesley Girls High School in Cape Coast, President Akufo-Addo said the criticism lacks merit.
There's a pity, though. The sad nature of aspects of contemporary Ghanaian politics drove some otherwise allegedly responsible people, including a former president and perennial presidential candidate, to question the integrity of the results, happily, without any foundation, and attribute these results to cheating. Students of Wesley Girls High School, Wegehe girls, do you cheat in examinations? I'm sure this loud no send a strong message to those who express this unfortunate, misguided sentiment. Ladies and gentlemen, government intends to continue to deepen the education of our population so as to attain our industrialization objective. This means that there will be increasing emphasis on science and technology education and technical and vocational training. The Accra STEM Academy, a school dedicated principally to teaching and learning of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM, is almost complete and will be commissioned this year. The development of 20 STEM centers and 10 model STEM senior high schools across the country stages of completion. Some of these schools have been operationalized and have been fitted with state-of-the-art equipment and laboratories to facilitate teaching and learning in all areas of study, including artificial intelligence and robotics. We intend to put STEM education in a central, relevant place in our educational structure And I have no doubt that the Lumina of Wesley girls will distinguish themselves in the fields of artificial intelligence and robotics. And in so doing, we will not neglect the critical contribution of the humanities to the growth of our society and civilization. Indeed, it is being accepted that the best balance is not just education, but actually STEAM, i.e. STEM plus the arts.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mahama has also been encouraging Ghanaian youth who've lost interest in the voting in the upcoming elections to resign their decision. According to him, election presents them the opportunity to drop governments that have failed in their mandate. Mr. Mahama, who was addressing students of selected tertiary institutions in the northern region, however, invited supporters of the NPP to join the cause to change the government.
We have elections this year. I meet a lot of young people, and they tell me, we are not going to vote. Of course, I know a lot of them are disappointed because they voted for some people who deceived them and raised their expectations so high. And so because of that, they say we're not going to vote because we're tired of voting, we don't see any difference. And I want to say to those people that you must punish those who disappointed you. Those who raised your expectation and said that they were going to turn Ghana into a paradise within a certain specified time frame and have disappointed you, you must punish them so that tomorrow somebody won't come and do the same thing. And so let's take an interest in the democratic process, because that is the only way you can effect change. Things won't change as long as you remain passive. If people come and take you for granted, and because of that you say you won't vote, other people will vote. But then you will not have solved the problem that you wanted to resolve by not voting. And so please, I expect all young people in this country to vote, especially the disappointed NPP youth. Please vote your party out so that they will go and do their homework again.
That was former President John Dramani Mahama encouraging the youth to rescind their decision to vote during the elections. But the former president also has opposed the proposal of the 2024 general elections to be held on November 7th. He explains that the proposed change of date is not feasible, as the Electoral Commission has not exhibited its preparedness to organize the elections in November.
There's already indication that this government has begun scheming to undermine the credibility of the elections. We cannot fail to notice the sudden interest and the push by the Electoral Commission to shift the date of the elections from December 7th to November 7th, at a time when it has not demonstrated its readiness to conduct even the general election. The lack of preparedness was clearly manifest in the District Assembly elections held in December last year. Elementary lapses and shocking logistical shortfalls painted a picture of a commission which is simply not able to undertake the elementary tasks of managing an election. One would have thought that the commission would spend its time to put its house in order and hold itself in full readiness for the assignments ahead, rather than proposing bizarre changes to the voting calendar. Over a month into the election year, something as basic as a calendar of activities for the year has not yet been prepared by the Electoral Commission. As pointed out by our representatives at the IPAC, to which we have recently returned, the EC must concern itself with getting the basics right and ensuring full readiness for the election before seeking to bite what it does not need to chew. We in the NDC do not find a proposal for a change in date for elections from December to November as feasible nor helpful, and will not be supporting same, as we do not believe that this is being proposed in good faith. I know that the minority leader has clearly articulated this position of non-support of the constitutional changes required to enable this to happen.
Away from that, about 10,000 victims of the spillage of the Akosombo Dam in North Tong constituency are still living in tents and other makeshift structures 5 months after devastating flooding. This according to Member of Parliament for the area, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, who has facilitated the construction of 2 alternative housing schemes to house up to 600 people. Former President John Dramani Mahama, who's backing the parliamentary probe into the spillage, says government has been insensitive to the plight of the victims. Kwekwa Asante has the rest of the story from Epe.
It's been 5 months since the floodgates of the Akosombo Dam was opened, leaving in its wake devastation never seen in decades. So many people reduced to living in tents with their entire livelihoods wiped off. With the water now receded and the people trying to build back their lives, so much help is still needed. For now, the focus of MP for North Tong, one of the worst affected constituencies, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa and his partners, is to relocate as many of the victims as possible and resettle them in decent accommodations. The MP has now opened the second alternative housing project to house at least 300 families.
We have been able to mobilize those resources and put together this second housing project, which we are calling the North Tong MP and Partners Safe Alternative Housing Initiative. From tonight, 300 people who are living in refugee-like tents in Dagome, in Agbetiko, in Aveime, in Dofwadidoma, in Fojoku. From tonight, they can have access to decent, modern accommodation, and they can have their dignity restored.
The MP says it is unacceptable that government is failing to live up to its responsibilities.
Waiting for the central government to commence the construction of resettlement homes. How long are people going to be living like refugees in their own country, in their own hometown? How long? How long are we going to be living in tents? Very soon, the rainy season will be upon us. Those tents cannot save us. So His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Vice President Alhaji Mahmudu Bawumia remember your oath of office.
Former President John Dramani Mahama, who is backing the parliamentary probe into the spillage of the Akosombo Dam, is also accusing government of turning a blind eye to the plight of the victims.
I urge the Speaker of Parliament, after he ruled that there should be a public inquiry, I urge him to go ahead and set up the committee, so that a bipartisan committee, so that it can hold a public inquiry. This inquiry must be televised so that the whole of Ghana can see it transparently, in order that we know exactly what happened, so that it will not be repeated again. Let me appeal to the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, and his Vice President, Dr. Mahmudu Bawumia, to be more responsive and sensitive to the plight of the victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage, and immediately get to work to commence resettling the victims. The insensitivity of government to the plight of these victims is unacceptable.
Chiefs in the area are helpless and furious.
The Volta Regional House of Chiefs is calling on government and VRA for a complete resettlement of the impacted communities that suffered as a result of what VRA did to us.
More than 10,000 persons still have to be relocated to be moved away from shelters like these, which have been described as inhumane.
The main challenge we have now is accommodation. Like we need proper structure. The tent, if you enter in the morning, you feel comfortable. But during the afternoon, there's so much heat, so you can't even stay in it. Yes, and even if it rained, last time it rained, the whole place was so disorganized.
But at least while these people wait for their government to come to their aid after budgeting more than 200 million cedis, Samuel Okudzeto Blackwell and his partners are doing their bit to help ameliorate the suffering of the people and put them back to living decent lives. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Mefe, Noftong, Volta.
Some youth in Asawase constituency in the Shanti region are advocating for the completion of 3 AstroTurf projects initiated by the government. They say government had assured the construction of these AstroTurfs with the aim of nurturing local talent. Unfortunately, the aspirations have been crushed as construction has come to a halt, causing the once vibrant football culture to fade away. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin has more in the following report.
We have about 3 pitches in Aswansi, which have been abandoned, Highlanders, Cooper, and that one we are standing behind us as I'm speaking now. Our wish and dream is to have the parks being built so that we can have more players in our community, because Aswansi have produced a lot of players. Some of the players that we have produced are like somebody like Dogomoro, we have Ishak Debra and Jerry, and even as I'm speaking now, we have some of the young players like Frank, a Black Star player.
The sword has been cut. So we know when the sword is cut from a government project, it needs to be completed. But per the documentation, as we heard, that everything is complete. But looking at the surrounding, nothing shows. We know government control how it goes. We have phases of it. Okay, per the documentation, they say it's complete, but we don't know.
The place has been like this, and the youth don't have place to train, so they usually play the football. So as you can see, some of the nets have all torn down due to, one or two things. So it's a big debt to the country again, which we have to renovate again.
So I see a constituency rich in talent and dreams, but hidden beneath the shadows of neglect lies a symbol of broken promises and unfulfilled potential.
So we feel very discriminated in a situation by this is started before others, the likes of the Chamsu, and others. They've seen this way after this has been started. Yes, completed. And we are the same people that are using this facilities.
So we have our elders going to the minister to inquire. They came with the feedback that the pit has been done since it completed. That is what they told us. That is what our elders told us, that there's nothing to be done again because the pit has been done already. So we have made some feedbacks, we did some demonstrations, let me say 2-3 times, and yet still nothing seems to be happening. So we don't know what to do again. That's why we are pleading to right authorities to take charge.
The AstroTurfs, which were expected to be the heartbeat of the community, now echo the silence of neglect.
How? First one, Yadika Islanders, and I joined Sisi Kosha Islanders, Yabuabua, Abubonina, and I'll go one side, and I'm out for ball one side. Sisi Idi Kura Yano Honum, Ukwa, don't say, I didn't Basa. I didn't was a Basa because of Zongo. In Penufo, I was Zongo, no, or moon like Basu the Kishi Zongo, or moon Zongo, or moon Akuma Mazongo. Yasai Islanders, also the same thing. I didn't was a Basa. In Penufo, yes, Remo, we need him. Sorry, no Mazongo, and Duru baby, and my Nachina, so not Yansu Yabumudi, Nakasamoya depa. Emma always Emma say ye be anu mana say ye kan from Tremo ya say
started by the MPP government, the AstroTurfs were hailed as a game changer for the Aswati community. But as the years passed, the promises faded and the fields fell into disrepair.
Since the beginning of this administration, I mean the current MPP government, which I'm part, no any project that have been started facilities, they are able to finish it. Because and even before the commencement of this project, we know definitely this is what is going to happen. Because when we go to our cream school, which is near to here, started on, the complaint is the same thing. The complaint is the same thing. No fan, no fan, no fan.
So we are putting on the belt authorities to help us sort this part for us, so that we can get more and enough talent in our community. Because as I'm saying now, football a lot.
There is growing discontent among the youth as they grapple with the consequences of the abandoned projects. As Asawasi continue to wait for action, the fate of the abandoned AstroTurfs remains uncertain. Will they ever fulfill their promise of nurturing local talent and providing opportunities for the community, or will they remain as reminders of unfulfilled dreams? A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Well, that's ended for the AM News right here on the AM Show. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Up next is the news review. Benjamin and I are back on your screens in a moment. Don't go away.
Welcome back. 3, 2, 1, action time, go. That's what our directors do. That's what we always hear in our ears right before we come on. Today, I wanted to count you down on the other end. My name is Benjamin Akakbo, and of course, who kickstarted the show? You know her. She's sweet enough. I don't know whether she's sweet, sour today. I'm up to mischief about something, but I'm not going to bring it up on air. Sweetie Abochi. You know what time it is.
How was your weekend, Benjamin?
My weekend was restful and tiring at the same time.
Why? What did you do that was tiring?
On Saturday, I went with my Sunday school children to Mofra Place, about 500 of them. So you can imagine for us, the coordinators, what that meant.
So you teach Sunday school?
Yes, I do. I've taught Sunday school for decades.
Ah, okay. I was just gallivanting the whole of Accra, and then I slept yesterday, so it was quite restful for me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Sunday was a bit here and there, and I read in church in the evening. Yes, so I read in church as well. I'm very active as a Catholic.
You don't act
Staunch Catholic.
Here.
I don't act it here.
I know here.
What do I do here? Oh, because I am comical and funny and everything.
Benjamin,
you think I'm not serious like that, eh?
I wouldn't have put you as a church boy, church man, church guy.
Okay, so let me tell you this. A lot of people on the outside who meet me outside, they think I'm so serious that I don't have a life. I don't have a fun side. When you get in here, then you realize the opposite is true, which you found out, actually.
And I must say that it's been interesting, you know.
It's been interesting.
Experiencing you on TV, on set right now, and then the Benjamin I know when the cameras are not on.
There are some people in church, just to sneak this in before I do endpoint. I do some announcements, fundraising announcements for the Harvest Committee. And I went on a few times, and a few people came to me and said, hey, I didn't know you were this funny, because I'm doing the serious thing, but everyone focuses on the serious guy on TV. And also, what do you say? Branding.
But I think it's a good combination. You know, you are hard and I'm sweet. You know what I mean?
It's good you didn't add something else. Anyway, this segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, as always, they're offering you free prostate screening if you're a man, free fertility screening if you're a woman. And here's where you can locate Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic across the length and breadth of Ghana. Here in Accra, they are at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Then there's Kumasi Kronoma Abwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswe and Siama in Zama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But here we are, we're about to slice and dice the newspapers. We're about to make minced meat of the newspapers. And joining me, Sweetie Abochi.
Yeah.
For me, one conversation I want us to start with.
Yeah.
Sports. Now, those who are posting pictures of the eagle getting roasted can finally roast the Nigerians. And there was a lot of banter on social media where the Niger people, my own people, Niger, I have a strong link, people don't know, with Nigeria. But all of a sudden, they were going hard on us on social media. So, secretly, we were also wishing that something else will happen to them. So the trophy has come to West Africa, just not to Nigeria. Ghana. And one lesson learned, I feel, the Ivorians, first few games weren't performing, changed their coach. Someone would have said it was suicidal. They've gone on to win the trophy. Lesson for Ghana. And two, when you host, yes, you can say that sometimes host teams are favored and this and that. When we hosted, where did we go?
Nowhere.
But actually, we went to, I think, a finals, and I don't know whether that's when we hosted, but the point is, host and win. We host and we are not able to win, so we continued with our barren situation.
It's a good day for Ivory Coast, but I thought that Nigerian team played serious defense game, more defense than, striking. They were protective or guarding their pole, with the little I saw and the little football that I know. And I found out some interesting facts.
And it reflected in the percentage. The percentage was about 67-33, against the Nigerians.
Did you know that Hali had cancer?
If you want to specify, testicular cancer.
Yeah, it's interesting that someone can come back from that and make such a name for himself.
A year and a half ago, he was battling this. So he's battled cancer, he's battled some life-changing moments, and he scored the winning goal together with Frank Kessie.
Yeah.
So, it goes to tell you that in life, you're never down unless you decide to remain down. I've heard people say that even when you fall forward. You can fall backward and you can fall forward. So life will definitely hit you at some point. Bounce back.
I like to say fail forward. Mistakes are your friends. Whatever you do, just pick the lessons from it and move forward with it. Because if you want to hate and berate yourself for, how bad you fared, you're never going to move forward quick in time. So, yeah, I think it was impressive when I read that. And Twitter was fun. I read some George's posts, no lights, no trophy, no noise. And so Nigeria has gone blackout and it's quiet because why are we the ones trolling Nigerians?
Charlie?
And not
were you on social media?
I was just
Did you see what they were doing to us? I think it's a sibling rivalry thing. But honestly, if Nigeria had won, Ghanaians wouldn't have had an ear to hear anywhere on social media for about 2 weeks. I can guarantee you that.
Perhaps Dr. Bawumia.
Our brother and sister Nigerians and bragging like they would have, even when it's dead, they'll resurrect it.
It's a brother neighborly thing that we do, and I enjoy it. All the banter between Ghana and Nigeria, and I'm saying that perhaps Dr. Bawumia would outline some plans on how we can win AFCON next year. On the back of digitalization. I don't know.
What is he going to do? Digitize the Black Stars? This is not Nintendo. This is not PlayStation. Let's get serious. But on a more serious note, it would have been good to hear look, I think some things are not so realistic. Former President Mahama has said that he would change the fortunes of the Black Stars and have a homegrown team, more local players compared to foreign players. Mr. Former President, I think sometimes you should be very tactful with some of what you say. Because first off, what you're suggesting is some sort of meddling. You know that as far as the football associations are concerned, these governments, the state can give sponsorship, can fund. But in terms of determining who does what and all of that, that's to the GFA, that's to Kaitokra and Co. Once you cross those lines, you start meddling and your team could be banned. Okay. We've got close to that point before. Okay. That is one. I don't know whether the former president, John Dramani Mahama, is getting the right advice in respect of that. Two, over decades, this thing about building a team from the local end. What is our premiership like? The local league. What is it like? It's in the pits. So if you say you're going to pick people from there, I'm not denigrating our local players, but if you're going to pick people from there, the South Africans can afford to do that. Have you seen their league? What is our league like? And it's reflecting in their players. They have a nice blend. And finally, we have a history of all of these foreign players coming. Yes, I think the problem is that they don't train together enough to be able to have that cohesion, that gelling to happen. But it is not necessarily the problem that it's the foreign players and because they come from, so we are going to use local players. I disagree on those points.
I don't know the extent to which he wants to make that happen, but if he's going by the books, just suggesting how it should be done, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Because to some large extent, I agree with what he said about using homegrown players. When you see the way some of these foreign players play when they come back to play for the nation, it's almost as if they have nothing to lose. And I think that's where the problem is.
Let's look at typical examples. Jordan Ayew, Crystal Palace, Thomas Partey, Arsenal. How much do they earn a week again? We've had players, sports people in this country. I'll always mention Gazy and that other woman. I've forgotten her name. Some of them suffered grave injuries for Ghana. Ghana would say, even calling to check on them was a problem. You are not funding their surgery. You are not doing anything. The Netherlands does it for one of your athletes. And then you expect that person, when another country is spending on them, to come and represent you.
So
Makes no sense.
That's the point then, Benjamin.
You are having...
These people have allegiance to their foreign teams because of,
the question is why?
Because they're better, they are more appreciated and valued there than here.
It is, in some way, yes.
Yes.
But it's because, one, our football is corrupt.
Well, that's two.
Our football is corrupt.
Yes, that's two.
Two, you have an instance where a footballer, if he qualifies to the next round, and someone said that, listen, it's nothing to do with the coaches. The coaches may make a tactical move here. It's all on the players. You have a footballer who would earn a $30,000 bonus, and some technical person sitting somewhere who is practically doing nothing. And in our GFA, there are such people doing nothing, and that person will earn $60,000, twice as much. Already, we are pumping so many resources into football at the expense of even boxing that we've been known for. The times of the DK Poisons and the Azuma Nelsons and the Ike Bazooka Quarties, when we're not investing anything into boxing, so to speak. Where does the money go?
Yeah, where does the money go? I'm asking everyone, where does the money go?
Go and ask Topreku, and then the National Sports Authority. Have you followed the National Sports Authority?
The just asked that the Editor General conduct an investigation, a proper audit into the National Football Association. And I'm looking forward to see what comes out of that audit, because it looks like there's money there, but the monies are not disbursed into the appropriate places and not put to the use that would, earn us a win, a trophy, whether a friendly game or national. Anyway, that's Ghana football for you.
Football, dear. Ajeta, over here. I like how we've changed the Atija to Ajeta.
Ajeta.
Anyway, we have a good host of papers here today that we're going to be getting into. The Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide on my side, the Ghanaian Publisher as well. 3 papers I'll be looking at. Which ones?
I have the Daily Graphic, the Republic, and the Finder. But this Jirapa Dubai boss story, the murder to be stabbed.
Sad.
In your own hotel room. I learned 4 more people have been arrested, bringing the number to 5 now. And the police are investigating. George Ekufu Dampare has asked the CID, Director General of the CID, to work with the regional command to bring justice to this man. And I really like what he did for Jirapa. A resort of that magnitude in a community like that. Last year, we saw star-studded festivals with Wiyala and the rest, bringing life to that place. And
we had conversations. We went there.
Yeah.
Kojo Youngson, among others, were there. I think Raymond Akwa, we were there.
Okay.
There were interactions held there, exposing everyone to the beauty of the Cozy Hills Hotel and everything. And all of a sudden, when I saw it, I don't know.
What was he involved in? Something like that doesn't just come out of me. It said there's no smoke without fire. So when I read this, I thought, what did he do? Who is he involved with?
Yeah, but sometimes it's not what you do. It's not always, let's be careful how we put it out, because it's always about, once people think you are moneyed, that you have maybe a duffel bag, or that you have,
you become
he's the owner, co-owner from what I hear of this entity. And it brings me back to the point of the lack of safety in some parts of the country. We have created a situation where in the northern belt of the country, and I say this without denigrating the people up north, but we have created a system of insecurity. Look at the roads going through from Kintapo leading to the northern belt. Look at how many things happen. Attacks on roads, people getting robbed, broad daylight, people wielding machetes and all sorts of, weapons and all of that. If it's not an ethnic clash, then it is people getting robbed. And for all you know, like in the instance of Lucky Dube, where the person said he didn't even know that it was Lucky Dube. Who knows? In this instance, maybe the person was, I don't know whether but the whole incident is...
There's a sharp contrast between what's happening in these other communities away from Accra and the heavy police presence here in Accra. Often I see these police on motorbikes, parading through town. I think it's just to let people know that they're around and, they're ready to fight crime if you get involved in it. So I do not understand how we have such heavy concentration of police personnel here in Accra, yet in the other communities like the Volta region, the Western region, and places like these where these crimes are perpetrated, how are they, is it evenly distributed? How come it's just heavily concentrated here in Accra only and crime is on the alert and high in other places in the country? Anyway.
Well, I know that there are some distributions, but as to
how it
whether I do know that Accra gets more than a fair share.
Of course, because we are more overly populated than the rest of the...
So I guess it would have to do with population and the different dynamics, if it's a hotspot as well. Okay, let's get into the papers.
Right.
Can you give us some details of that story?
Yes. So the renowned businessman Eric Johnson has tragically been killed at his hotel in Jirapa in the Upper West region. The owner of the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, known as Jirapa Dubai, was found dead in his room on Sunday, February 11th, 2024. Now, sources at the hotel are saying that Mr. Johnson was discovered in a pool of his own blood with deep wounds on his body, indicating foul play. The Paramount Chief of Jirapa Traditional Area, Na Justice Donlabon Dina, has confirmed the incident and reported to the police. We also know that George Akufu-Dampare has asked the police, the CID, the Director General of the CID, and the Regional Command to lead that investigation. One person was arrested 2 days ago, and as of yesterday, 4 more people who work in the hotel have been arrested. So we're looking forward to seeing what comes out of that and if justice will be served for him. What headlines do you have?
Would you like to exhaust other stories?
Okay, from the Republic. Sure. There's a story here about U.S. Embassy praising Ghana Journalists Association. Right. The U.S. Embassy in Ghana has praised the president of the Ghana Journalists Association for his sustained efforts in ensuring accountability for Ghanaian journalists who are attacked. According to the press attaché at the U.S. Embassy, Kevin Brosnahan, he is proud to be associated with the GJA under the leadership of President Albert Kwabena Dumfor, who was rigorously called for accountability for those journalists who were attacked. We know recently a journalist from City TV was attacked on the back of the elections and all the nuances. So perhaps
the Yendi MP Farouk Aliyu Mahama says he was not involved in all of that. I think at a point he said he wanted to take. I was asking, saying he wanted to take the matter to court, and then I've seen the MPP, Justin Frimpong Kodia Frimpong, also sent an invitation to him to come and explain himself on certain grounds. Yeah, but have you seen a video where?
No, I haven't.
No,
have you?
Me neither.
Pictures, maybe. I've not seen anything. Just
You see, the difficulty in those situations is it's more like a fracas, a melee. Everybody is giddy. You understand, and. You probably don't know that something is going to happen for you to train your cameras there.
Well,
so it's the journalist's word against the Yendi MP's word. But I mean, I honestly also don't think, while I do not have the full details, that someone will be trim and just frame a story. But just to add to that bit about the GJA, right?
Yeah.
The GJA has also condemned the NCA boss. The GJ has, in recent times, sort of called for a blacklisting or blackout of the likes of maybe Hawa Kumsin and the Yendi MP, among others. And the NCA boss came out to say that this was a dysfunctional something. I've forgotten his exact wording. And they've gone hard against him because I don't know what that it will not serve its purpose and all of that. But at some point, something must be done.
Yeah.
And I support the GJA boss on that score. If you were on the receiving end, head of the NCA, then maybe you might understand. I'm not saying that you don't know the industry, but those comments were in poor taste.
Let me do this story about demolition. So this is the road minister saying that they will not pay compensation to occupants of demolished temporary structures. The Adenta Dodowa Road redevelopment project has commenced with a contractor clearing and preparing stage that has affected hundreds of occupants who are temporarily occupying these structures. Billboards, stalls, kiosks, and containers within the demarcation of the road have been demolished. But before I continue the story, you know, I was at Amasaman sometime last week, and in the Zongo area, where the first batch of demolition happened, the MP for the area, incumbent MP for the area, Mensam, he was saying that the first batch of demolition that happened, the people there were compensated, and they have resold the properties to people who have no idea what's happening. And so they've been given 2 weeks ultimatum to move about 2-3 kilometers of road that's going to be demolished that has stalls, homes, shops, families. I interviewed one of the women, and she was in tears because she bought the place from someone who had been compensated already, so she has no idea.
So they are built on these places?
They're built in these places.
Okay, so two things at play, which always demonstrate that nothing works in this country. One, you're going to have a demolition. You've engaged the people on the land. You've demolished whatever. Some parts. In
the beginning, yes.
And compensated them. What do you do as a state? What do you do as a metropolitan assembly?
Ensure that nobody gets back to those places.
That is it. No one goes anywhere near. Failure of systems, failure of leadership. Then two, these people who have resold whatever entities, we have Ghana cards, right? Trace them, do what must be done.
Yeah.
This is basically criminal. Follow them and give them. If we see this happen once, twice, people will.
Yeah, and this is Nedodowa. So they are saying all the occupants of these structures were given prior notice to relocate. They are demanding compensation for their demolished structures because they claim they pay permits to the Adenta Municipal Assembly. And the concerns, so they pay permits, and so they have to be in roadways.
So the Adenta Municipal, whatever, is it the Assembly?
Yes.
Gave them permission.
Yes.
To build.
Yes.
Knowing fully well.
Yes.
That this country here.
So the concerns of the affected individuals are how to come by money and start life all over again amid the prevailing economic hardship. Yeah. That's that for the Republic Press newspaper.
All right. Let me quickly get into the Ghanaian Times and maybe the Daily Guide very quickly. Review curfew in Nkwanta. Traders, residents appeal to government. Some say that portion of Ghana has come to a standstill on the back of this economic activity and others. And that the last time I had the OT regional minister here, Mr. Makubu, he made mention of, well, others have also made mention of the fact that a lot of the youth have left that area because, I mean, you can't do certain things. So they basically left that community. Getting them back might be another hurdle. Cybersecurity Authority cautions public against Valentine's Day fraud. You might want to look out for that. President makes new appointments in prison service. Aftermath of fatal accident. Minister cautions Ofankwan Sawam road drivers against recklessness. And ex-President Mahama pushes for bipartisan parliamentary inquiry into Akosombo Dam spillage. He's not happy about how some of them have been treated. But let me just look into a few stories, one or two. So the Cybersecurity Authority has warned unsuspecting members of the public regarding potential fraud associated with the upcoming Valentine's Day celebration on February 14. It's cautioned that cyber criminals often exploit the occasion to defraud unsuspecting victims through various schemes, including online shopping and romance scams. In a press statement released on February 7, the authority disclosed that 3.5 million Ghana cedis was reported lost in 2023 due to online shopping and romance scams. It therefore urged the public to exercise caution and due diligence in their online activities. So there's a lot of malicious activity that happens around this time. Don't get caught pants down, right? Valentine's Day, don't get caught pants down.
Literally.
Because your romance could turn into Charlie tears. So look out for that.
This fraudulent activities is digital, isn't it?
Yes,
so like
by and large.
Yeah, buying stuff on Instagram, on Twitter. They say pay before delivery. You send the money and the page goes off. You can't trace it.
It could even be the common one. A lot of entities, even the eateries, right?
Yeah.
A lot of clone sites have been created. So when you go, usually it's those ones you see with that phone number, you call. When they start telling you, send the payment first, Momo. Don't that it is likely. It can be payment on delivery. Look, sometimes even they have a scheme. They can actually get the thing delivered. Do you know what they do?
What?
So this is the fraudster. He knows that this entity has whatever system where payment on delivery. So you call, unfortunately, you call the fraudster. The fraudster will say, fine, so we'll deliver to you and then you make the payment. Then the fraudster calls the company and tells them that I am Asemesi, come and deliver to me at this place. So the person brings the thing to you, and then the fraudster tells you that when the person arrives, call them. Call him or her. So when the thing arrives, you call him, and then he will say, send the money to him. And then you start taking the product, and the person will tell you, but you've not confirmed payment, you've not given me money. And that's where.
And then you have to pay double.
It's crazy. We all have to be
Are there any laws in place to check these, especially
we have the Cybersecurity Authority. Our laws have become more aligned to cyber crime, but we still have, in Africa, we are one of the countries that have something going when it comes to cyber security. There's Egypt, there's South Africa, there's Nigeria, there's Ghana, among other countries. But let me quickly do this. Aftermath of fatal accident, Minister cautions of Ankoa and Sawam drivers against recklessness. And the Minister of Roads and Highways has asked the drivers who ply the Ankoa and Sawam road to exercise some level of patience and also caution to ensure the safety of all. And that also reminds me, the Pokwase stretch, hopefully government can get it done quickly. You know, the other day I was joking, this is just a joke, but if you were to ask me that you wanted the Dubai experience, the desert experience, I'd probably send you to Pokwase to, just take a look at how things are.
They are watering the roads,
Yes, on the back of talking again and again and again.
And now the people are complaining that only 2 tractors is not enough, and so they should make it about 4 or 5, and then some, running throughout the course of the day. Because if they come in the morning and water the roads between now and maybe 9 a.m., by the time it's 12, 11, midday, the dust is back up. So they need to add more tractors to the watering down of the dusty roads in Amasaman.
Finally, review curfew in Nkwanta. Traders in the Nkwanta South Municipality of the Otu region have appealed to the government to review the curfew imposed on Nkwanta following the communal conflict between the Adele and Chala on one side and the Achode on the other, from 5 p.m. to 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. They just want more time, 2 hours if the curfew is going to stay. Other stories?
Yes. On the Daily Graphic front page, NDC running mates heater. Before I get into the story, if you were a betting man, who would your money be on?
I don't bet.
But if you were a betting man, a number of names have come up. We know Professor Jainan Opokwajiman. His name has been top of the list. Among that, we also have the Member of Parliament for Isunafo, Eric Opoku, and lately retired Police Commissioner Nathan Kofi Boakye. How long or when do you think Mahama will actually announce his running mate? And
if you asked me, I would probably say it was a strategy. Wait till...
You think they're waiting on... Yes.
Wait till...
Outwait your opponent.
And there's also Reverend, is it Onyina? The Pentecost... recently, it's some post surveys have come to the fore, and people are suggesting. I think there was a post by Frank Anodon Prayer as well about a few things. Of course, I can see where that would be heading. If it goes that way, though he has come out to say, look, that post of mine had nothing to do with any political what. I'm still following God's guidance, and that there's no linkage. But let's assume they go there. The thinking may be that, I'm talking about the MPP. Let's assume they go there. The thinking may be that, the Pentecostal church has a huge following, and so maybe I am a Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, I am Muslim. Though we are not playing the religious card here, but I am Muslim, I will get a number of people of a certain extraction supporting me. Then we can have the Pentecostal caucus. It would be a a bland strategy. It doesn't work like that. You will not have people vote simply because someone has been head of their church and is. I don't think that would. No. So if that's the thinking, I don't know.
But let me get into the story because it's interesting that Togbi Afede's name has also popped up. It says the names of other possible contenders being tossed around include former Chief of Staff to President Mahama, Julius Debra, an economist, Dr. Nimoy Thompson, Member of Parliament for Sunafo, Eric Opoku, and lately, retired Police Commissioner Nathan Kofi-Boakye. Mr. Mahama, who is expected to announce his running mate later this month or early March, is facing intense lobbying from various power blocks within the party and interested stakeholders across the country. Let me move here because this is the interesting part. But lead advocates for Change Makers Forum, a group of professionals aligned to the center-left political orientation seeking to effect leadership with advocacy, Ivan Chidi Akrobotu, emphasized the seriousness and potential impact of the outcomes of the NDC's choice of running mate and urged the flag bearer to go for the respected paramount chief. That is Togbi Afede. For the group, Togbi Afede is a perfect choice for the NDC flag bearer who can bring his expertise in finance, economy, banking, and entrepreneurship to bear on the country's economic management. What do you think about that?
What do I think? Do you know why people are so interested in that slot?
Tell me why.
Because whoever gets that slot puts himself or herself in pole position to be president, the next president.
Yes.
Whether or not the NDC wins this election. Do you get what I mean? John Mahama can go for one term, one additional term. After that, likely, the person who is his running mate takes over. And even if that person gets the slot and the NDC loses the presidential election, that person will be in pole position to lead the party in 2028. So this is a crucial position. And that's why there'll be a scramble to be running mate to John Mahama. Because win or lose, even if John Mahama loses, that person still wins.
Yeah, because he has only one term. Now, analysts are saying that the choice of a suitable running mate to the flag bearer is crucial, like you're saying, to the success of the opposition party's ride to the Jubilee House on the seat of government. The role of a running mate is pivotal. It extends beyond the ceremonial, just like you're saying, because in the next election, not this one, that person stands the chance of being president. There was a story I saw that caught my eye in the Daily Graphic, saying that, where was that? Yes. MMDAs to be inaugurated today. You know, they were sacked, some of them were sacked from office a week or two ago. Let me get into the story and say all is set for the inauguration of the various metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies across the country today. The inauguration follows the successful district-level elections in December last year that elected new assembly and unit committee members to serve in various assemblies for the next 4 years. The event will take place in 259 assemblies out of 261, where the elections took place last year, except in Kranza North and the South in the Bono East region, which had the elections in 2021. The district level elections, though, Benjamin.
What about it?
They are going to be inaugurated today. Those who were selected, elected into office will be inaugurated today. And also, was the DCEs rather that were sacked? Some of them were sacked from office. I was confused with that. But as part of the inauguration, representative from the president would deliver his inaugural address, and all elected assembly and unit committee members across the 259 MMDAs who would be sworn in to officially commence their mandates to ensure the smooth and effective discharge of their duties in their respective electoral areas. At least that's, continuity in governance. So yes, we are looking forward to them also taking up from where their predecessors ended. Yeah.
Well, right before I get into the Daily Guide, I see an interesting comment. Sometimes I like to rail against some people on social media. This is what maybe you might answer for me. Evans Boakye says, the front page was on the NDC's running mate. Why did you suddenly jump to talk about that of the MPP when she did not even finish reading the front page? Benjamin, your unfairness to the MPP is not. You know me, I've told you that I don't care. I have a very thick skin. These comments, I'll read them. Do you have any response to this person?
Well, there are two major political parties in the country. If we have something on the NDC, we'll be doing justice to it if we get the side of the NPP as well. So
I don't know whether
Evans
was listening, because you spoke about it and it brought to mind Apostle Onyina, and I made mention of it. And then what did I go to? I went back to the NDC situation and the possibility of this person being in pole position, whomever they elect as running mate.
Plus, it's a news review, so we cannot just do one side of it and leave the other.
Watch it. You can, maybe you can do this. I've always said, if you feel we can do this role better, please apply. Come, sit here. I have no problem. I'll move on to the next thing, yeah? Because some of you, your political tinctures come out and you think you are, but anyway, it's fine. Let's leave it there. If you didn't realize that I spoke about both parts, but you only heard the first part, I'll leave you to that part, and you can stay that way. Daily Guide.
Oh, let me do one last story in the the Daily Graphic. Digitization and 24-hour economy, Bawumia. Substitutes or complementary development strategies. This is by Emmanuel Akwasam. So the Vice President and the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, said in his 2024 New Year message to Ghanaians that the NPP government will continue to develop a modern and resilient economy driven by digitization. Now, juxtaposing that statement with the 24-hour economy proposed policy of the former president and the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, he foresees a resilient 12-hour digitized economy and a 24-hour economy development strategy dominating the campaign promises of the two leading political parties. I thought it was interesting that they are all running on this 24. First, Mahama spoke about the 24-hour economy where you can work with work shifts, run hours.
Please be careful, Evans Boachu will come and say you are. Why are you not focusing on what Bawumia?
Sorry, well.
And why are you bringing in John Mahama? Focus on what's the story.
I'm juxtaposing between, because the both of them are talking
Evans
about
Boachu will not be happy with you.
Evans Boachu, please follow through with us.
By the way, Camila says, in NDC we don't have driver's mates, we have co-drivers.
His words, not mine.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'll just wrap on these. Daily Guide, LGBTQ bill, don't jail same-sex offenders. Afenyo Markin says so. And that story in the Ghanaian Publisher as well. And then give Bawumia a chance. That is in the Ghanaian Publisher. What do you think? Give Bawumia a chance. Some have said he wasn't the driver. He himself has said he was the mate.
I think that no one is commending the NPP for the good work they did on that speech. The logistics, the set, the video they played before Bawumia started speaking was very inclusive. You could just tell who a farmer was with the background. You could just tell. I think that, and the way they set up the whole place blue, it was good. They should come again. They should. I still don't know to what extent I can actually say some of the things that I want to say. But I think that if they apply the same strategy, making a thing look so nice, if they apply the same strategy to how they run this government, they will not need the driver out of the seat before the driver's mate assumes the seat to make the country what we need it to be.
But making things nice is only cosmetic. It's only skin deep. It's about the real things that will impact what we do. And we'll leave it to them to do what they have to. And I have always said that this election, the political parties must show us. They must prove to us. This whole bit about give Bawumia a chance, give Mahama a chance, give Asamesi a chance. It's not about giving chances. We aren't Santa to be giving out gifts of opportunity. We tried it once. You remember? Ekufuado told us, try me too.
For young people,
I am not
like
here,
myself,
whether NDC or MPP. I'm just saying, anybody says give him a chance, give her a chance, please watch out. Because this is the season and matricule is real.
I think young people should vote with intention, because before Ekufuado came on, he had all of us, rallying behind him. This is this is someone who's,
Charlie, I say,
in various levels of government.
Let me not even go there.
And then Ekufuado comes and this is our country. So I don't know about giving us a chance. I think we want to scrutinize what is in your manifestos and find ways to hold you to it. hold you to it, you know, so that when you come and you say that 24-hour economy, you're digitizing identification, you are scrapping NSS, you are removing VAT on electricity. Put it in actionable points. Let everybody read and understand what it is you're proposing, so that when you come into power, after the first 4 years, if you're unable to deliver, we remove you and bring somebody else in. So it's not just about giving a chance. Do that with intention. Do that after you've really scrutinized what the person is offering you and how he or she intends to deliver on those mandates.
Well, time now for us to run off, and we're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning on the show. Right before we go, this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering you prostate screening for free. They are also offering you fertility screening for free. Prostate if you're a man, fertility screening if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanso and Esiama and Zima. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And a very good morning to Evans Boachi. I see him sending in more messages. Evans, I wish you a very good day, okay? Enjoy your opinion and your standpoint, but do realize that everybody has an opinion, respectfully. I can get very sarcastic, but don't take me seriously like that.
No,
I saw you sending in more messages. Any final words?
No, I'm looking forward to watching highlights from Muftao Nabila. I want to see his, what he...
You want to see how he's going to roast the eagles?
Yes. Just that.
We're having Eagle Chinchinga today.
Did you see the meme where the elephant sat on the eagle?
But that also reminds me, unfortunately, of 1992.
What happened in 1992?
The stars were not able to shine and the elephants sat on the stars. Yeah, they've done it to us too before.
Thank God we were not in there yesterday. It would have been disastrous. But AM Sports is up next. Muftao Nabila Abdullahi is bringing you all the updates in the world of sports. Keep watching.
Abidjan to Yamoussoukro, Bouaké to San Pedro, where everyone is still jubilating the success of Côte d'Ivoire as they defeated Nigeria 2-1 to win their third AFCON title. The first two all came against Ghana in 1992 and 2015, and this time around they came from behind to beat Nigeria 2-1. In the group games, Côte d'Ivoire lost to Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea. They were at the verge of being knocked out of the competition until Morocco defeated Zambia, and Ghana also drew 2-2 against Mozambique. Let's hear from midfielder Seko Fofana, who has been speaking. He says those defeats were to remind them that they needed to work very hard.
I didn't say this, but today we show we work very good, and we work about this team because we are very good player. It's a strong team, and today we are very happy about the success. Every game was not easy, and we are very happy about the success. And I hope everybody gonna enjoy. And congratulations to every team, also the Niger. And today we are very happy, and I hope you will enjoy.
How did you do it? I think you did this, you lost your two crucial games in the group stage, but you bounced back. How?
This is God, Sometimes God makes some situation to show you need to change something, to work very hard, and we do this. Today we are very happy. Thank you for the managing of the coach, of the player also. And we are very happy because this competition was not easy. We see a lot of team, and congratulations to every team.
So what did the team actually change? What did you guys really change?
We come back more strong with some spirit, because every game we start, we are losing 1-0 or some player, but we trust every time because we have also the support of people. And today we are very happy because we show we are the best team.
What does victory mean to the whole of Cote d'Ivoire?
A lot of things, you know, because the competition was in home and a lot of expectation to people, and everybody is happy. Me, I'm happy, and we are very happy for the success.
Well, the action was on the field, but if you were on social media, you probably would have seen that it appeared Ghana won the AFCON and not Cote d'Ivoire, as the banter between Nigerians and Ghanaians dominated X especially. And as you can see here, many of the comments very hilarious. And this one said, India expresses confidence in Nigeria's economy, unveils multi-billion naira laboratory in state. And it went on to say what? Quite interesting. This one says, good morning, brothers. How was your night? And this is the meme for a Nigerian. This one also says that, just a quick one. This one says that because of the amount of hate that Chris spews at Nigerians, and yet they are his highest followers. Said, love yourself. That's because Chris posts. No, not that one. Let's take what we're all saying. The match involving Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria. This one, they said what? No, not that one as well. Some of the comments were specifically for Nigeria and Ghana. And so what? The teams that set the tournament alight, Angola, DR Congo, and of course the African champions, Cote d'Ivoire. Nigeria were clunky and wasteful. South Africa almost seemed out of place. A whole semi-final for South Africa, a long way for a team who should be eliminated early. And let me just type something pretty quick from some Ghanaian journalists. Let's input, say, Sam George. Let's input Sam George here. Sam George was one of the few people who actually dominated some of the things we had on social media, as some of the things he wrote were quite funny. Sam George, type Sam George for me. Sam George, yes, Sam George. Sam Jata George, yes. In fact, he led Ghana's trolling of Nigeria. He said, dear Nigerians, don't mind my fellow Ghanaians, you have won. We used your ego to make Indomie chicken. We even added onions for flavor, 1 carton for each player. It is all love. He went on to say that, what's the value of seeing Canaan and not stepping there? Canaan is a coastal nation, Ivory Coast, Gold Coast, Canaan Coast. The super chicken cannot reach there. And this one, proper one. Yes. He said, dear Ivorians, we know you guys are not on Twitter. Why not? Ghanaians are here for you. What are neighbors for? We would cook those noisy giant birds. No AFCON, no Grammy, no light, no fuel. Most importantly, no noise. Yes. And this one was quite an interesting one for Hala, and a bit emotional, because in July 2022, he was diagnosed with cancer. February 2023, scored a winning goal for us. Nigeria won the African Cup of Nations. And yes, so in fact, some of the Nigerian players, especially Asisa Toshola, Victor Boniface, were all running away from social media because they said, in fact, there was another tweet that said that Ghana has taken over 42 years break from AFCON, but Nigeria, despite their population, cannot raise 23 good players to equal Ghana's record of winning the tournament. So it's been banter back and forth. And in fact, before kickoff, Nigerians had said Ghanaians would buy light and watch them play. So yeah, it's a friendly banter.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into the big stories. And first off, our main focus for today, we're going to be looking at, contemplating the vice president and also flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party and his plan for Ghana. We're going to be contemplating what the vice president has been sharing with us, together with his technical advisor, Kabiru Mahama, Dr. Kabiru Mahama. He joins the conversation in the studio. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So let's start from here. I think it's only fitting to also indicate that Dr. Kabiru Mahama, in the latest NPP's parliamentary primaries, was given the nod as the candidate for the NPP in Wale. The caveat being that there is a bit of an issue there, and so the matter is in court. But for now, congratulations all the same.
Thank you.
As that court issue is sorted out. I'd like to give you the first few minutes to walk us through what happened just a few days ago at the University for Professional Studies, Accra, what went into the planning, and what we saw on D-Day when the Vice President laid out his roadmap, if you like, should he become president. Just spend a few minutes walking us through what exactly the message was.
All right, so thank you very much, and good morning to you and to your cherished listeners across the country. The Vice President on Wednesday presented to the Ghanaian public his vision. Prior to this, you remember some 4 months ago, the Vice President was given the mandate by the New Patriotic Party, the delegates of the New Patriotic, and by extension, the whole of the New Patriotic Party, to be the flag bearer, the torch bearer, and the standard bearer of the party moving into the 2024 election. When the Vice President was given this mandate, he made it clear that, in fact, during the acceptance, he gave us the breadth of his vision. But on this particular occasion, the Vice President used it as to give us a very comprehensive contours of his vision to the Ghanaian people, so that the Ghanaian people will be able to accept it. So prior to this, for the past 3 months, the Vice President has been planning, the Vice President has been engaging people, the Vice President has been reflecting on the Ghanaian situation, and following this particular long period of examination of the context and the situation in Ghana, the Vice President finally had this opportunity to present. But in order to present such a vision, the Vice President feels like, okay, I'm a job applicant that the Ghanaian people will have to assess. So they have to assess me. They have to assess me on the back of the mandate the President was given. And that mandate, I was supporting the President to deliver that mandate. So what was I able to achieve as the Vice President? The Vice President put the presentation in broadly three main parts. The first part was an elucidation of the records of the New Patriotic Party. In other words, he took the time to account for the stewardship of the President under which he actually, the President he supported during the past 7 years. We are going to our 8th year in office. The Vice President also used the opportunity to, articulate specifically the task he was assigned by the President and whether or not he was able to deliver on that task. So that was the second part. And the last part of the Vice President presentation was actually the bold solutions that he was proposing into the future, the path that Ghana need to follow in order to come out of the many difficulties that we found ourselves in recent times, the path that Ghana has to take in order to build a stronger foundation that will leapfrog our country to develop. So basically, the presentation by the Vice President was on this particular direction. The Vice President clearly realizes that, in fact, he is acutely aware of the fact that the Ghanaian people will have to understand what is happening, what we've been able to achieve. And he actually, one important thing that I need to stress was that the Vice President was very clear that, look, even though we've had a difficult period, the President leadership has been marked by a disaster which has never happened since the 1930s, but we've been able to achieve a number of successes. And the Vice President was also clear that I was given the role as the leader and chair of the economic management team, which is a sub-cabinet committee of parliament. I was supposed to provide advice, I provided advice, but the President also tasked me specifically to lead the digitization agenda of the country, which are also performed, and he highlighted a number of areas that that he was able to achieve. And then clearly the last part was about his vision, which will come to delve in more into the details. So this was the approach the Vice President used to address the country. But let me note specifically that the Vice President rule, as he was assigned to formalize the economy, is one of the cardinal rules the Vice President play, and he can beat his chest any day to tell us that, when I was elected with the President gave me a mandate. The mandate was simple, that lead the formalization of the Ghanaian economy. I was able to do one, ensure that every Ghanaian had a unique identifier, and we are moving towards having every single newborn baby even having a Ghana ID card or a Ghana number. The Vice President was clearly of the fact that I promised the Ghanaian people that we need to digitalize the passport application system. We were able to deliver that. The Vice President was also clear that we needed to reduce corruption by ensuring that efficiency in public service delivery. That's why we introduced the Ghana.gov. The Vice President was also clear that health delivery was key and cardinal, and the provision of essential health services, especially to hard to reach areas, was an important thing for the Ghanaian economy and for the health of the Ghanaian people. He was able to introduce, through the support of the President, the medical drones for the delivery of medical services. The Vice President was also clear that the Ghanaian ports have been bedeviled with several inefficiencies, especially with the manual system of clearing our goods. He made sure that together with the Minister for Trade and Industry, we introduced the paperless port system. The Vice President was also equally clear that DVLA is losing a lot of revenue on the back of the manual system of application and processing. He was able to give direction to the DVLA to ensure that they go digital. The Vice President was also clear that insurance was of an issue where they still do manual insurance, but through his ingenuity and the support of the National Insurance Authority, we were able to deliver also on that. The Vice President was equally clear that we will need to do something about payment system, where the financial inclusion of our country is very paramount. Through this, in fact, Ghana have 100% financial inclusion through the mobile money interoperability. The Vice President was equally mindful of the fact that the Ghanaian economy is not only based on financial inclusion. There was also the need for us to look at even how students apply for scholarship. Right. Apart from replacing the Ghana ID card with the guarantor system, the Vice President also made sure the application was decentralized and made digital for every Ghanaian, irrespective of where you are located, to have the opportunity to apply. The Vice President also ensured that at least during his period in office, the property address system is something that we have now had a firm handle over. And hitherto, we used to give direction using landmarks. But we can now give digital address to every Ghanaian to ensure that we are able to reach our destination, or even the risks, the credit risks will consequently be reduced due to that initiative. So basically, this was what the Vice President accounted for specifically in relation to the tax he was given by the President. But also, he also defended the broad economic and macroeconomic records of the President. When you talk about exchange rate, the Vice President defended the record on that. When you talk about agriculture growth, he defended the record. When you talk about growth in general, the Vice President defended the record. When you talk about gross international reserve, the Vice President defended the record. The lending rate, the Vice President defended the record. Even on the issues of jobs, the Vice President defended the government record on all these aspects.
So I think I've given you quite a bit of ample opportunity to elaborate on a number of things. I have two quick questions for you, and I'll start with this one. You kept saying he had done this when it comes to digitizing, which then leads to digitalization, the monetization, and you're an economist, so you would understand better of the terrain. You kept saying he was able to repetitively, from the DVLA to ports to property identification to the Ghana card and everything. So you are giving that credit to the Vice President, whether solely or otherwise, as being the arrowhead for this. How come, though, while we will get to the economy later, if we can do same, how come when it comes to the economic management team, where he conventionally, by convention, heads, and in recent times we've seen photos of the appointment of John Dramani Mahama back then when he was Vice President, as being a member of the team. So whether convention is his head or whatever, is it fair then to say that in terms of where we are, tax speaking, economically speaking, like I said, we'll have ample time for the economy, we should also lay the buck at the doorstep of the vice president, or it's a different issue?
It's a different issue.
It is?
Yes, because one, the vice president was given a mandate to lead. Another, the vice president was...
To lead what?
To lead, especially the formalization and digitalization. The other, the vice president was given the...
But he wasn't given the mandate
to advise.
Right.
Okay. When you look even at the number of issues I mentioned as directly attributed to him, he had a secretariat in his office to supervise that.
To supervise what?
The implementation.
I like specifics.
So the implementation of paperless sports system, the implementation of digitization of the DVLA, the implementation of Ghana ID card, all the digitization agenda that the vice president, there was a secretariat in his office which will liaise with the various institutions to ensure the delivery of those goods or those essential or those items that's so listed. Okay. In the case of the management of the economy, the vice president provided advice. There was no secretariat that provided even oversight, unlike the digitization that we've mentioned. So clearly, one, he has a firm hold of the handle. On the other hand, he did not have a firm. His only role was to advise cabinet using the EMT. So you cannot compare the two to say that, okay, once you were advising, take absolute responsibility for everything. Another one, apart from advising, I was also in charge of implementation. More or less, I was having oversight of the implementation.
Quick question. When exactly? Because especially with Dr. Bawumia, what everyone in Ghana has known him for is the economy. And the 100 and so questions and this and that. So you cannot fault the ordinary Ghanaian for thinking, whoa, when did this? So let me ask you, when exactly did the shift from the core economy, and of course, digitization is part of the economy, when was that shift such that, Vice President, I want you to focus on digitization? When exactly did this happen?
The Vice President, when the government just came into office, the President cleared task to him that chair the EMT.
Right.
And then also ensure the Ghanaian economy is formalized. This is the task that he was given ab initio. So it is not a case that along the line, the vice, even when you even learn the first time, people were saying the vice president had, even in the early days of the Ghanaian economy, people were saying that he has shifted away from the management of the economy now to digitalization. And it was also, again, explaining to the people that, look, it's not a shift. It's clearly, there's a clear linking, like you said in your introduction, that there's a clear linking between the economy and digitalization, which economists have well over agreed onto as a fact. But the vice president never shifted. It is actually based on the tax.
So ab initio, he was focusing on digitization.
Exactly.
I don't remember for the first few months of the MPP's tenure in 2016. I don't remember how. I don't think even in the first year he was this, or even second year he was this hard on digitization until other things came through. It's in the latter stages, especially when the economy had not been faring too well, that we saw him really hammering on that. What do you think you can allude to for that development?
You remember the vice president visited DVLA, visited passport office. That was the early days of our tenure, the president tenure in office, in the first term. Okay, that visit to institution, he visited the Controller and Accountant General, was basically in line with that particular vision. Now, so for me, but even the broader economic issue, the vice president hasn't run away from defending the records.
Right.
He hasn't run away from that. The vice president continually defends the records of the New Patriotic Party in the context of the broader economy. That said, but there is the limit the vice president can do, especially so when he is asked to only advise cabinet and then advise cabinet through the EMT. Okay. Probably he cannot do implementation. Even the vice president, let's assume that he will make policy proposals, suggestions. It is left for someone to implement them.
But you see, that is where you open yourself to criticism. Because people have said, do you remember Emisa Arthur and the 100+ questions? Yeah. Did he know then that Emisa Arthur also was in a position where he was only an advisor and couldn't, impact the economy, couldn't determine what Finance Minister Seth Tekbe would do? Was he aware of that when he was coming up with those questions and lampooning the former vice president, who today has met his maker. Was he aware of that?
Yeah, you see, the vice president was aware of that, and the vice president is even equally aware of that now, that if John Mahama should bring him 150, 170 questions on the economy to answer on behalf of the president, he will have to answer. Okay. If the running mate or even former president, whosoever brings 200 questions on the economy and is asking him to answer, he would answer. So ask him, even as a government spokesperson or someone supporting or advisor to the government or to the vice president, if you ask me such question, it is only fair and proper that I account and provide answers to the best of my ability. So it will not have to take me to be the vice president or be the president himself to answer such questions. So the vice president asking the then vice president of blessed memory, Mr. Atta, to answer those questions was not to suggest that Mr. Atta had final and ultimate responsibility for how the economy was run. The economy always stopped with Mr. John Mahama.
It honestly didn't stop. It honestly didn't sound that way then. He made it appear as though, because everyone knew, I mean, let's face the facts. You can go back. Team, we can go back and look at some of these speeches by the former president, and maybe if we find some of them, we can play them. He doesn't sound in them like because back then, yes, they would say incompetent Mahama and everything, but it was accepted that Mahama wasn't an economist, right? So it was Emisa Arthur who was literally lampooned. Of course, he had been governor at the central bank, the Bank of Ghana, which is why I'm focusing on this angle, because it can't be different strokes for different folks. You can't say one thing in one breath and something else in another breath. So if it was good for Emisa Arthur, what's good for the goose must be good for Dr. Bawumia, maybe the gander.
You see, the fact that Dr. Bawumia has also been lampooned, he has also been attacked on the economy. One thing is attacking the vice president and asking him to provide explanation and putting blame or placing responsibility on him. These are two different things. You are blaming Dr. Bawumia because he's part of the economic management team and he's part of government. You are blaming Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia because he's an economist and he ought to have provided advice. You are blaming him because you feel that his advice...
him because he touted himself and was touted by the president. He touted himself and was touted by the president. Recently, I had here in the studio Paul Grave-Wachidankwa, your spokesperson on governance and security. He said Bawumia was the best economist in the world, past, present, So, of course, if he's the best economist in the world with where we are as an economy, would you be happy?
I'm clearly happy with the role, the contribution of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as an economist to the fortunes of the country. I'm very happy.
All right, let me quickly run this by you. Who are the current members of the economic management team?
The current members of the economic management team, the vice president, the minister for trade, Katie Hamo. We also have the minister for agriculture, Brian Champong. We also have the finance minister, who is a member of the EMT. We also have Professor Bafo Jan, still a member of the EMT.
He still is there?
Yes, we have the secretary to EMT, Professor Joe Apia. We also have the Minister for Energy, Napo Opoko. We also have who else? We also have the Minister for State of State Enterprises, Honorable Kujo. These are the members of the EMT as it's...
Is it Philip Kujo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How has the constitution of the EMT changed over time? These were not the original members of the EMT.
Yeah, so you see, the EMT is drawn from...
Of course, I know there are different representations from
different representatives. For instance, anytime you have a change of energy minister, the new energy minister will be a member of the EMT. Agriculture minister was also changed, so he will be a member. The trade minister was also changed. The trade minister resigned, actually. So there will be a new member. So these are the only people, we have changed. Otherwise, the initial members, for instance, Joe Apia has been a member. Professor Jan Bafo has been a member, even though he's not...
Oh, yes, he's been a member ab initio, because I remember when Dr. Bawumia was... Do you remember the members of the former economic management team? Now, do you remember these? I wonder how many Ghanaians, though, were aware that these were the members of, apart from, yes, knowing that some ministerial roles, of course, the finance minister will be there, the energy minister will be there, trade will be there, but whether they have performed to the extent that they will be on the lips of every Ghanaian, it will be knowledge, common knowledge, that these are the members. Do you feel these people, together with the vice president, have delivered then what an economic management team should deliver over time?
So, first and foremost, we need to limit their role to advise. Whether they have provided the requisite advice, they were able to, the quality of advice they provided, whether or not the members were able to start to live up to the expectation Ghanaians, the expectation of Ghanaians on them regarding the advice they provide to the president. And that's like the vice president mentioned. The quality of advice, I have no reason to doubt the quality of advice the members of the EMT give to the president. Sitting down and listening to them have deliberation on economic issues and the resolution they have on those issues. Some of them have actually led to massive improvement in the fortunes of the Ghanaian people.
Like which ones?
So, for instance, the advice they give to government on the back of the crisis. The goal for oil, I remember the vice president making the proposal and passing it through cabinet for it to be implemented. I remember also the Bank of Ghana gold exchange program. The BOG also sits on the EMT. So they are also permanent members, more or less, of the EMT. So these are some of the quality advice the people, the EMT members have given government, has given central government or agencies to implement. I also remember on the back of the reduction of benchmark values, the Minister for Trade in collaboration for Minister for Agriculture brought in some list of items we needed to make protection for in the context of local production. The team discussed it and provided advice, and the advice was taken to protect the local industry. That was another advice that I think that the quality of advice, I have no reason to doubt that. Mm-hmm. Okay, the rice production has increased significantly because of the policy proposal and suggestion the EMT has made. Mm-hmm. So for me, the quality of advice that the team gave the president, I have no reason to doubt that. However, you see, we can still say that there are certain things that Ghanaian...
I'm sure that same advice was also brought to bear when the finance minister was saying we were proud people that would never go the way of the IMF. And eventually we ended up there, much later than we ought to have, accepted by international institutions, including even the credit ratings agencies, and including other, CSOs, the minority, who said we should have gone a lot earlier and left us in the lurch. I guess all of that advice will also be factored in, right?
Yeah, all that advice. And I feel like, sincerely, the decision to go to the IMF was the last resort. The finance minister was clear that we can manage our affairs. There's no need to go to the IMF. The deputy finance minister was clear that we are not going to the IMF. But when push came to shove, we needed to do that. And under the circumstances, the Ghanaian economy had no option than to opt for such an option. So when you are basically optionless, you have to take measures that would actually save your economy, that would save life. And you remember on the back of that, the vice president came out clearly to defend the Bank of Ghana on their decision to, in fact, extend credit to the central government to make sure that central government is able to hold on to the crisis until normalcy return. So for me, we can discuss the IMF program in this context, but you see, IMF program, as it were, no country will want to go for the IMF program unless, of course, it's a measure of last resort. And I think that the government took that decision because there was basically no option out for the government than to sign on to the program.
But a good sign of proper leadership, economic leadership, is knowing it's like running a bank or running some financial institution, a financial house. You know when your books are not right and when you need help versus when you don't need help and you can get things afloat. There's the famous, mention of Elon Musk. At a point, I think he nearly sold Tesla to, is it Google? And I don't know whether it was Google or Amazon, one of those. And he was going to sell off, the entity with some controlling management and all of that. Then all of a sudden, they were able to make a lot of sales. I think they brought in $11 million, and then they stalled the sale. The point is, if you're running a business, you ought to know when you're in the red and when you're in the black, and when things are going well, and whether even when you are in the red, you can actually claw your way back using different resources. But when it is clear, the writing is on the wall, and you wait till you are going to be in a situation where even getting credits is going to be problematic. Look at what we went through to get there. But we're not having an IMF conversation. That's a conversation for another day. We'll come back to the economy because we've also fact-checked a number of things that Dr. Bawumia has said, whether they are plausible, whether they are true, whether they are factual, and whether they are not. We'll be bringing that in a bit when I also bring in Isaac Kofi Ejay. But let me ask you, the Vice President, the NDC says when they elect their running mate or suggest their running mate, they will have a co-driver. The Vice President says he's a driver's mate. I'm sure many Ghanaians who have questioned it are interested in this driver's mate or assistant headmaster explanation. Can you explain to us what it means to be a driver's mate?
Yeah, so the driver's mate, basically used by the Vice President, is analogous to someone who supports the driver to do other peripheral activities that the driver himself would not ordinarily be able to do. For instance, imagine a driver having to collect fares at the same time drive passengers. Imagine the driver having to, stand to open the door of the car for passengers to board, and then he embarks. I mean, such will be a very difficult task for the driver. Ultimately, the driver has the responsibility of ensuring that people enter the bus, they are drove to their place of destination safely. He accounts for whatever revenue is going to the owner if there's an owner of the car and he's not the owner driver in this context. So the analysis of, the example of a car driver, of a bus driver, he being the mate to the driver, was basically to tell the Ghanaian people that, look, I was playing a supporting role to the president. The president was given the ultimate task.
But the president was fully aware that he was playing that supporting role. That's why he said, Bawumia, the economist par excellence, the economic wizard. The president was fully aware of that. And ab initio, he painted the picture that, in fact, the president said, I am no economist. I don't know about economics. But I have got someone who is an economist, who knows economics, who will change the fortunes of our country. So,
the president knew ab initio that he was not an economist. The vice president provided that complementary role to something he did not have. The president was also equally aware that when it comes to the finances and the management of the economy, the constitution has placed it on the president, and that he delivers that through the finance minister.
So are you saying the president wasn't necessarily honest in
I'm
that
saying
regard?
The president was very
honest. Or that
honest.
maybe even the vice president himself was not very honest about the situation.
The president was very honest when he said that Bawumia is an economist. He has the wisdom as an economist. His head is, he's a very excellent and brilliant economist who can support me to deliver fortunes to the Ghanaian people. He was very honest. And I'm saying that, like I said, I'm happy with the contribution of Dr. Bawumia to the fortunes of the Ghanaian people. And like we have mentioned, no vice president, and the president is justified, even on hindsight, that if you look at the contribution of every vice president to the economy and to supporting the president, this vice president is an exception. This vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has performed wonders, has performed things that no vice president was able to support his president to perform. So to that extent, the president was the president is justified to say that Dr. Bawumia was an exceptional person who was coming in to support me, deliver fortunes, prosperity to the Ghanaian people.
I think we'll have to stay much longer on this, because the economy, like it or not, is going to be one of the crucial focal areas. Of course, later we'll talk about corruption and everything in between. But I want to take us back, and thankfully my producer, director, my team has been able to find some of the files. We're going to take you back, way back to many years ago, 2016 to be specific, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, then running mate to now President Akufo-Addo, and his address, some of the questions he posed to former President Mahama, with Emisa Arthur as basically the one to be lampooned. Let's watch this.
So, what does the data say about the state of our economy after 8 years of economic management under the NDC, with President John Mahama in charge as the head of the economic management team for 4 years, and president for another 4. Mr. Chairman, any assessment about the state of the economy and the performance of the government must be against the background of the amount of money or resources that has been available that has been at the disposal of any government. At a public lecture in September 2008, the then Vice President, Shell candidate John Mahama, said, and I quote, "To whom much is given, much is expected," end quote. I would like, with his permission, to borrow his exact words to describe his government's exact performance in the last 8 years. In this regard, it is important to emphasize, for the record, that measured in terms of today's dollars and cedis, no government since independence has had the amount of resources in terms of tax revenue, cocoa exports, gold exports, oil revenues, and loans as the 2 NDC administrations between 2009 and 2016. Under the 8 years of the MPP government, from 2001 to 2008, taxes and loans only amounted to 20 billion Ghana cedis. In contrast, taxes, loans, and oil revenues alone over the last 8 years would amount to 248 billion Ghana cedis. So, what you see in the diagram, in the graph there, the Mills-Mahama government over the last 8 years would have had more than 12 times the nominal resources that the MPP had, 12 times the number. The question, therefore, that Ghanaians should be asking is, how has the management of the huge resources at the disposal of the John Mahama government impacted on the economy? Let's look at the real sector. Mr. Chairman, a key statistic that measures the performance of any economy is its gross domestic product. This is the total income of the country or its total production. If the country were a maize farm, the GDP will be the total bags of corn that we produce every year. If the economy is doing well, we will produce more bags of corn each year. If, however, you can only account for a few bags of corn after 8 years of farming, you cannot attempt to claim credit by saying that you used a lot of fertilizer. If in the presence of good rains, you claim to have used a lot of fertilizer, but still end up with a poor harvest, you are likely not a good farmer. Mr. Chairman, a second and just as important statistic is how many people in the country have benefited from the bags of corn we produce. Are incomes rising for all or just a few? Data from the real sector indicates the following developments over the last 8 years and before. Between December 2000, Mr. Chairman, and December 2008, without oil, economic growth in Ghana increased from 3.7% to 9.1%. Without oil. After declining to 4.8% in 2009, real GDP growth increased to 7% in 2010 and 14% in 2011 because of the discovery of oil. However, since 2011, real GDP has declined steadily and drastically to 3.9% in 2015. Mr. Chairman, you recall that in 2000 we were growing at 3.7% when we were HIPIC. After discovering oil, we are pretty much growing at the same rate. President Mahama's tenure of office, as can be seen in the graph, has been characterized by declining economic growth. And this is what you see. From 2012, 2013 coming down, you've come all the way down. Mr. Chairman, between 2000 and 2008, the size of Ghana's economy increased from $5.1 billion to $28.5 billion. This was a 459% increase in 8 years. Even in the face of global economic and financial crisis in 2007 and 2008, with oil prices reaching a record high $147 a barrel, economic growth, as I said, rose to 9.1% in 2008. However, notwithstanding the oil discovery, GDP has increased from $28.5 billion in 2008 to a projected $40 billion in 2016, which is a 40% increase in 8 years. But you will see what is interesting about this data is that MPP increased GDP by 459%, NDC increased it by 40%, but when you look at the tenure of President Mahama, between 2012 and 2016, Ghana's GDP has shrunk by 5%.
Ladies and gentlemen, then running mate Bawumia, now vice president and flag bearer of the MPP. Let's hold him to the same standards he held others to. So let's come into the studio. Kabiru, I'll walk you through some highlights I picked from there. So what has the NDC done? What do they have to show with Mahama as head of the economic management team? His words, not my words. Head of the economic management team for 4 years and president for another 4 years. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to give each person a trial and error situation where you must serve as vice and serve as president. So let's get that clear. He mentioned as head of the EMT. That's what he said, which means his position was no different. Then he talks about money at the disposal of the government. In fact, he talks about the fact that the Mahama administration at a point had 12 times the resources that the erstwhile administration had. Let's walk through what this administration has had. You say, to whom much is given, much is expected, much is required. You've borrowed almost 500 billion Ghana cedis. That is, in sum, more than any other administration has done. In fact, our debt at the time when the NDC was handing over hovered around 122 billion. Now we all know where it is. You've had more oil wells added to our oil streams. COVID-19 funds amounted to about 21 billion Ghana cedis. Add to all of this, are you aware that the current prices of cocoa have hit a high on the back of some diseases in other parts of the world? Cocoa is selling. Many people are not aware of this. It's selling at record rates currently. If you look at what this administration has had versus what the previous administration had, who then has had more resources in terms of borrowing, in terms of COVID-19 that you lament about, which you earned 21 billion Ghana cedis from, in terms of all the resources that have been pumped in, and now the IMF program? He says, if you have more fertilizer but you have a poor harvest, then you are likely not a good farmer. I don't know what you make of all this.
Yeah, so the vice president was clear that the then president and also former vice president was head of the EMT and president for 4 years. And he was asking him to account for such periods. So it wasn't only in reference to the fact that he was the head of the EMT. That said, he said, and clearly so, to whom so much is given, so much is expected in return. For this government, I can't, with a snap of finger, list a number of things that were never done, and that can speak to the money that was received by the government. For instance, if every year $1 billion, convert that to Ghana cedi, is used to service your excess capacity payment, you have to take it from that money you are getting.
I see.
Okay. If
do we still have excess capacity?
We have. We do. We still have excess capacity.
Wow. It's interesting you say that, Ghana, and it's worthy of mention because we've been told that for about 2 years now we've not had excess capacity. That in fact, we supply to other countries, and you know that basically when you look at our composition, you're saying we still have excess capacity.
That we still have excess capacity for which payment is made by the government, and government is even concluding the renegotiation of our IPPs to do away with some of these excess capacity payments. Okay, installed capacity of power, independent power generators is visited on the government, even though some of them are not producing the full capacity. In any case,
if you have excess capacity, and we've spoken about this for years, for a group that wants to harness the economy on thriving industry and business, what would you do with that excess capacity?
Probably you would want to do, but the problem with the excess capacity is that the cost of production is not even friendly to the business community. You have to find a way of having a mix that will bring down the cost of energy in order that you give it to businesses so that they can produce, and also you'll be able to get some revenue. Even to export power to Cote d'Ivoire, our power exporter is sometimes even more expensive than the power they generate, so you cannot sell. So this is the problem with this excess capacity, is that we generated power which is so expensive that even to sell it in the market is so expensive, no one is willing to buy, because we entered into agreement that were not, if you like, that did not make economic sense. So that's one.
So you would rather hold the power than sell it and make the difference and maybe add it to your liabilities in terms of paying off your liabilities.
If you do a business and you make a net loss, it's better not doing that business.
Okay.
So if I have a phone, I have to sell it and I have to probably make a loss on the sale because the one to take it doesn't think it's a scrap. I'll better keep it.
But if you're going to pay that same amount anyway, this would offset part of your cost, right?
But there's also the generation cost. So if it's offset, what about the cost of transportation? What about the cost of transaction? Who pays for that? Okay, so sometimes you may have it, but it will not make sense to sell it because of the situation you find yourself. So sometimes that's a problem. The government can also account for the fact that for the first time, more than 11,000 kilometers of roads have been constructed. We have in Sawam ongoing. You have seen those who have traveled on this particular road, you see the massive work ongoing. That is part of the money. The government has also employed up to some 1 million people in the public sector. Those people have to be paid, including those already on the payroll. That is the money being used. The government has also constructed more railways than any government. That is part of the money. 18 district hospitals, 20 polyclinics have been completed. And also we have Agenda 111 ongoing, over 100 of them. That is part of the money. So for any person to say that this government has not used, we have more fish landing sites than any other government has constructed. That is part of the money. We have constructed more interchanges than any other government has constructed. That is part of the money. So this government can clearly account for the money that has been received, the development that the Ghanaian people have also received in return for that money. It is a case that when you receive so much and you cannot account for that, that's where the problem begins. So the Vice President, even at his Kasua lecture, Yesu Krum, it was clearly an account for the money that the government received through borrowing or revenue generated.
All right. Hold for me. Let me bring in Kofi Ajay. But before I do so, Ghana, I'm going to leave this one to you. I'm not going to do the work for you today. I want you to send me messages because Dr. Kabiru Mahama is saying all the money, the 500 plus billion, it went into your roads, for example, the 11,000 kilometers plus that purportedly has been brought to bear. Have you felt the impact of those roads? He talks about Agenda 111. We know it's in the offing. I don't think we can even use that as a metric because most of them are nowhere near completion. So how do you even use them as a metric? But he also talks about railways. I don't know how many of them. I know there's a plan to get some of them into the country from Poland, I believe. But are your rails working? And how, from where I sit, I would ask myself how that has impacted our economy. A good rail network impacts the economy. Send your messages. I want to know from you out there. But let me bring in Kofi Ajay. So Isaac Kofi Ajay, is with our research desk. There's been a lot of talk about some of what the Vice President has said in respect of the economy. We're going to fact check some of the things that he said. Kofi Ajay joins me. Kofi, good morning. You would have to unmute, Kofi.
Ben, I'm on mute. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you now. So I know we're going to be talking about inflation's decline, about the fiscal deficit, among others. But I'm going to leave it to you. Just walk us through. What are some of the claims of the Vice President? What is fact? What is fiction? What is truth? And what is not? Walk us through them.
Well, Ben, so basically, let's start with inflation because it's currently the most spoken about economic indicator, if not the depreciation or exchange rate. So the Vice President made a very categorical statement about the state of Ghana's inflation rate. And he says that inflation has actually declined from 54% in January to 23% in December 2023. So we decided to fact check and see how the president came about these figures and what he sought to achieve with it. So we decided to look at the real figures from the Ghana Statistical Service. If you look at the Ghana Statistical Service inflation bulletin, and then we can see that for the month of January 2023, was somewhere around, it's indeed 23%, but the price figure was 23.2%. And in December, it was 53.6% January. So if you look at it, what the Vice President did was to actually run the December 2023 figure to 23, and then decided that he will run to the nearest figure to make the inflation of December 2023 also bigger. So if you look at the judgment that we came with, the verdict, so we can say that if you look at the Ghana Statistical Service inflation bulletin, you can say it is true that December was 23.2%. It just deviated by just 0.2%. Forgive me for that. But it's not accurate to say that the rate was 54% in January 2024. The accurate figure, we must say, was 53.6%, because 0.4% in inflation terms is huge. So you can't, run the other one down and run this one up to make it look like there's supposed to be some massive improvement there. There was another, claim on fiscal deficits. He spoke a lot about the nature of Ghana's fiscal deficit. And the reason why this is important, remember the finance minister came before a committee somewhere last year or so as a result of the minority saying that they had actually abused the Fiscal Responsibility Act and they had gone beyond the threshold that they were supposed to operate within. The Vice President made some claims about what they came to inherit in 2016, what they had in 2019, and then in 2020 when COVID struck, what the fiscal deficit actually went to. So he speaks about 8.4% in 2016, 4.1% in 2019, and 10.8% in 2020. We looked at the 2016 figure, and our verdict is that it's actually false to say that 2016 the fiscal deficit was 8.4. In fact, if you look at the Finance Ministry's 2016 fiscal data sheet, and it's available on the Finance Ministry's website currently, the figure they quoted for 2016 was 7.8. And so what the Vice President mentioned was higher than what is actually recorded in some official documents like the Ministry of Finance data sheets available on their website. We decided to probe further and find more proof to test the claim. And you can see the 2017 IMF Article 4, Table 1, page 7, puts the overall fiscal deficit around 9.3%, higher than what the Vice President actually quoted. So In fact, the overall could mean that there were other costs that we incurred in that year that were added. Remember that sometimes, government decides to add some special costs like the energy sector level, costs that they incurred, or even the financial sector cleanup. All those things sometimes are taken out, and when you add them, you see the figure also going up. So 2016 figure, very contradictory. Then 2019, he said the fiscal deficit was 4.1. Per our checks from the fiscal data by the Finance Ministry was 4.8. Ministry of Finance 2019 fiscal sheet, if you include financial sector cleanup, you are looking at 5.8 and not the 4.1 that the Vice President mentioned. So if you put together all our expenses that year and the costs we incurred, the overall fiscal deficit, what truly reflects the economy, was 5.8%, and this was actually put out by the Finance Ministry in their fiscal data sheet. Then, if you go to the IMF Article 4, document, table title, Ghana selected economic and financial indicators, 2019 to 2022, the figure there is 7.5%. So IMF puts a figure of 7.5%. And if you exclude, so including financial sector cleanup and the debt we incurred from, other sectors like the energy, we were talking about 7.5. But if you exclude it, then the actual figure there was 4.7%. And all these figures are higher than the 4.1% that the Vice President quoted when he gave that speech. 2020, we also found a claim to be some sort of, there's some, falsehood in there where the figure that the Vice President mentioned actually contradicts the available data provided by both the Finance Ministry and the IMF. So sometimes what the Vice President does is that he picks the fiscal data in terms of commitments and compare it to the cash of a certain year, and that can give you that narration that he wanted. But if you really study the data well, you realize that there are some sort of discrepancy between what he mentions and what's actually recorded in our official document. So the Ministry of Finance 2020 fiscal data sheet, without financial sector cleanup, puts the figure at 11.7%. 11.7%, and the Vice President mentioned 10.8%. Ministry of Finance, again, 2020 fiscal data sheet, with the financial sector cleanup, we were talking about 13.8%. So it was a matter of pick and choose which of the figures that will suit the occasion. So the Vice President decided to go for the 10.8%, which does not truly reflect the economic situation of Ghana.
So you're telling me that even when he was picking figures, sometimes he would massage the figures to suit the political cause he represented, right?
So he, not to say massage, but he will pick figures, and the level at which you are supposed to compare those figures, it's not possible. For instance, you can't pick the fiscal data on commitment basis and compare it to cash basis. If you are doing cash, do cash and cash.
Right.
If you are doing commitment and commitment. So
they don't mix.
The category, exactly, you find those two narratives were not, there was not that uniformity for you to do that sort of comparison. So he picks commitment data and compares it to that of cash data.
So it's basically like comparing apples and oranges, so to speak.
Exactly. And that could be misleading in some instances, because you're not talking about the true state of the economy. You're not talking about what other official institutions like the IMF are recording in their books. So for the instance, the 2021 IMF Article 1 data puts Ghana's fiscal deficit, the preliminary figure was 15.2%. 15.2%. That's way higher than the commitment figure of 10.8% mentioned by the Vice President. So you could see that that was not the true reflection of Ghana's fiscal data. It was not 10.8%. is probably within the figure mentioned by the Finance Ministry or what they reported to the IMF and what has been captured in the IMF Article 4 review document.
Okay, so let's quickly look at some other claims made by the Vice President in respect of our GDP and other matters. What else does he say that we fact-checked?
So I mean, if we look at let's talk about, there were other things he said that were completely true. So 2020, he actually made some claims about the fiscal data as well. We checked and they were true. But one other claim that we found to be contradictory in terms of what the Vice President was saying and what a certain ministry, which is supposed to be the primary source of such data, was also reported, was a claim that in 2018, there was a total of 346,911 passports, being issued that year. So we decided to check. And if you are talking about passports and you want passport data, then the best place to go is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. They are the primary producers of such data.
Right.
So if you want the official government source, then the ministry should be the primary or the go-to platform to get that data. So we decided to look through what they call the program-based budget for that ministry, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. So we saw that the figure that they mentioned or quoted for 2018 was smaller than what the Vice President actually mentioned. So what the Vice President mentioned was about ×2.
Hello, Kofi. All right, we'll try to get Kofi back. He was just on the point about the claim made by the Vice President that in 2018, a total of 346,911 passports were issued. And of course, he was making mention of the fact that if you want such data, the best place to go to is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. Kofi is back. We lost you for a few seconds.
Yeah, man. So I was saying that if you look at what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs recorded in their program-based budget, plus what the Vice President mentioned was way smaller, or what the Vice President mentioned was about ×2 of what was recorded in the ministry's document. I don't know why this is so, but I feel there is some sort of contradiction in what the Vice President mentioned versus what the ministry also put out in their program-based budget. They quote a figure of 194,549. The Vice President mentioned over 346,000. And in that year, it is interesting to know that if you look at the ministry's target in terms of passport registration for that year, their total target was 200,000. And they stated in the program-based budget that they could not meet this target because it fell short by some, marginal, percentage there, where you see 194,000 being compared to 200,000. So what the Vice President quoted in his address was way higher. We do not know why this is so, but we believe that for us to get that primary data for such a the best place to go is the Foreign Affairs Ministry to get that data. So these are some of the claims that we've been fact-checking, going through the statement or the speech. We are not done yet. There's more to come, but currently this is what we've been able to fact-check, and these are verdicts.
All right. Before you take leave of me, Kofi, I just want you to clarify this for me. If I look at what you've just presented, so in terms of inflation, there is some truth with an inaccuracy because of the 0.4% difference. Then you go to another claim. There's another truth somewhere which also has. So the deficits, the 10.8% versus the 15.2%. So it is partly true. So here's what I have put down. There is one truth with an inaccuracy, one point that is partly true, also with an inaccuracy, and 5 false statements. That's what this shows, right?
Absolutely.
So of the 7 claims, that the Vice President made, those that we fact-checked here, 2 were partly true and 5 were completely false.
Completely false, yeah.
All right.
Completely false based on available data from official documents and parent ministries that are supposed to provide those documents. We compared and we found out that what the Vice President put out was completely at variance with what those official documents have to provide.
And of course, we are sourcing this information from what? The Ghana Statistical Service, the Finance Ministry, the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. So you can't go wrong with them. These are source entities. Kofi, thank you so much for joining the conversation. You've added a whole lot to enrich the conversation. Isaac Kofi is with our research team. He's a research and data analyst. He joined the conversation. Over to you. Out of 7 claims that we fact-checked, 2, partly true. Partly true. 5, completely false. How do you react?
So first and foremost, if you give me time to also fact-check what we've just fact-checked, you also realize that there were some inaccuracies also in just what you presented.
I see.
And before I even go into that, let me note that when it comes to data, to the extent that someone provides you source of his data, and his source of data can be verified from that particular source book, then all other issues becomes an issue of whether or not that parent source is correct or not. I don't have reasons to believe or disbelieve the work that has been done by Kofi. Okay, that's Kofi, right?
Yes,
done by
Isaac
Kofi. I have no reason to that because it's based on documents he has perused. But let's even take the issue of inflation, which you were saying is been mad. The person says that inflation was 54, when in actual case it was 53.7.
53.6.
Okay, basically the person has even made the government look bad when it comes to the politics of it.
No.
Let me explain.
Let me clarify for you. If someone says inflation was 54%, and we brought it down to 23.2%, the person is basically claiming an extra 0.4% of effort that never happened.
So let me tell you why.
He was making himself look good.
Let me tell you why. The person says that inflation was 54 when it was 53.7. And the person, yes, 53.6. And the person says that we've brought it down to 23. One is 23.1. The difference between the points, in fact, it has made the government look bad because the difference is actually at the disadvantage of government.
But that is still clearly not
it's still clear because...
Can you listen to me? If 54,
yes,
53.6,
yes,
minus 54, or if you do the reverse,
yes,
you get a difference of 0.4. If he said that they had brought inflation down to 23, which is 23.2, 0.4 minus 0.2 still is an add-on of 0.2. He was still making government look good. I mean, that's basic economics.
The number is 23.1. The actual number is 23.what?
23.2. And there's 53.6 versus 54.
Yeah, so that gives you a difference of, if you just say
0.2.
0.2. No, if that gives a difference of 0.2, but he has also made the government look bad. 0.4.
Did it make him look good?
No, he made the government look bad. Take the 53.
I am stunned that you're doing the mathematics and you're still saying
I'm clear in this particular point that if you say that inflation was 54, okay, let's assume that it's been padded by 0.4.
Right.
Okay, and the reduction is now 23.6 or 23.2, and you say it's 23. It also means that you have also reduced your
by 0.2. Right? So he still added on 0.2.
So if
to benefit government.
So that's what I'm saying. That when it comes to specific figures, we don't go to this triviality. Because on one hand, he has made the government look bad. On the other hand, the government looks...
Okay, let's even come to that.
Fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit. No, I want to come to this because there are claims made.
We don't have that.
Yeah, but when you make the claims that the vice president has misrepresented fact, and they are also...
That's why I want us to go to the meat of the matter, not the small ones that may have...
No, even so, I'm coming to fiscal deficit.
Okay, so let's get to
fiscal deficit. I have the highlight of the budget for 2017. That clearly put the fiscal deficit at 8.7 for 2016. The budget is on just here. So I don't know where Kofi got their figure from to suggest that the vice president was wrong. Fiscal deficit, the budget highlight, is clearly with me here. Okay, the figure is 8.7. And if you want to know the true budget figure, if you are using the 2016 budget, you get it wrong because that will be estimate or projection. To get the right figure, go and use 2017.
But if you look at the 2016 finance fiscal data sheet, it points to 7.8%. In fact, the IMF itself, in its Article 4 statement, tables 1 and page 7, puts the overall fiscal deficit at 9.3%.
I'm saying that, well, these are different. I'm saying that on the issue of...
Unless you're saying...
If you are going to...
What information you have versus what the information the IMF
I'm coming
has
to the IMF
are very
figure.
different.
I'm coming to the IMF figure. I'm saying that that's 2020. That one is different. We're talking of 2016. 2016 is what...
This is actually 2016.
2016 that we are referring to. And I'm saying that for 2016, if you are going to the 2016 budget highlight, you get it terribly wrong. Reason being that, as at 2016, they are based on projections. To get the accurate figure, it is 2017 that they report. 2017 that they report actual figures for 2016. So on this particular document I have, 8.7, the Vice President couldn't be wrong. Even if there's any wrong data, it's coming from the source of the Vice President. 2, he said 2020 fiscal deficit was projected to be 11.1, and the Vice President state is 10.8. When in the document, the Vice President never told you whether it's on cash basis or commitment basis. You go to use your cash basis as a basis of lampoon or poo-pooing the Vice President.
So why did the Vice President?
No, I'm even saying that in the first place.
If not,
the logical question
for reasons that may not, lend to factual analysis, why would he put it out there without stating?
The logical question that anyone wanting to do a fact check, Rabin, is the Vice President using commitment basis or using
but he made mention of that.
He never mentioned that.
He mentioned that there's commitment and cash.
And I'm saying that the Vice President, let me read the specific portion. The Vice President mentioned that he never mentioned whether commitment or cash basis.
No, and I'm saying Kofi Ajay mentioned that.
Kofi Ajay said that.
He made mention of
the Vice President. The Vice President in his speech said, mention a figure. He never told you whether it's cash basis or commitment. You go to take.
Do you know why?
You go to take cash basis and say the Vice President is wrong.
Okay.
You don't also do that. You should have asked the Vice President, the figure you are mentioning, is it commitment or cash basis?
Okay. All right.
That is how we can do the analysis and be fair to the Vice President figure and also to be fair to Kofi on this issue.
But we have done our fact check, and these are the results, the tail of the tape.
Yeah.
If you have different data or data that points to something else, we can get to that. Yeah. Isaac Kofi Ajay wants to explain part of your concerns to you. Kofi, go ahead.
Ben.
Yes.
Yeah, so, he's asking whether, he said the Vice President was not very categorical, whether it was commitment or was cash. I'm just saying that if you are talking about fiscal deficit, you can either choose to talk about the overall fiscal deficit if you include everything. You can talk about the cash or commitment. We did not just fact check commitment or cash. We said that if you look at all the three indicators, cash, commitment, and even what was provided in the budget, none of the figures quoted by the Finance Ministry, and if you look at that of 2020 fiscal deficit, for instance, we did not take the data from 2020 budget. It's not possible. We know that if you want to get the final data for 2020, the best place to go is 2021 mid-year budget. So if you go to the 2021 mid-year budget, you get all the final data for 2020. And that is where the Ministry of Finance puts a figure of 11.4. And that's higher than what the Vice President quoted, 10.8. Look at the Ministry of Finance, whether cash, whether commitment, whether overall, it is not 10.8. And if you have the Ministry of Finance and another credible organization like the IMF, the Ministry of Finance feeds them with data, all quoting different figures that are way higher than what the Vice President is saying. I don't think that it's fair to say that, we just decided to pick and choose which data to actually, decide to debunk what the Vice President said. And if you are talking about 2016, you should know that we did not use 2016 data to fact check 2016. We mentioned where we got the 2016 data from. The 2016 data we had was a final sheet prepared by the Finance Ministry. And then also a 2017 Article 4 document, which is at least a year higher than 2016. So that can give us a fair idea of what happened in 2016.
Which also indicates that there's no way that figure could have been wrong because there was an extra year, which is exactly what I was pointing to him.
If we are wrong,
then the IMF is also wrong.
The Ministry provided wrong figures to the IMF, or they themselves reported wrong figures. So I don't know where the
Kofi, thank you very much. We're not going to have a banter on this because we don't have enough time.
I'm going to read
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Go ahead.
The overall budget deficit on a cash basis as of December 2022 was 11.7. It wasn't 11.4.
Okay.
Of GDP.
What's your source?
That's the Minister of Finance 2021 budget highlight. That's the anyway.
Unless we have different documents.
As against a revised target of 11.4. So he's using a revised target as a basis for the determination. It wasn't the revised target. It is the actual figure, which is 11.7. So you cannot use revised target, which is clearly what the document has said, as at the end of 2021.
Dr. Kabiru,
so this argument we'll have
this conversation. Moving forward, because I know from your end you always try to dispute the figures, but like we are saying, unless what you fed to the IMF was also wrong, I just have this. I don't know whether you can help me in 30 seconds to do this. If the fundamentals are weak, your exchange rate will expose you. I've always wanted an explanation based on what the Vice President said then and his clarification. Was it last year?
Yeah.
That
2019.
Can you explain that to me? I still don't understand his justification in less than a minute, and then we are gone.
So the Vice President stated that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. But that was not a statement that if the exchange rate is depreciating, it means that your fundamentals are weak.
Okay.
Basically, that was why he conveyed. For instance, if you say that if you have headache, then you must be suffering from malaria. Okay. Then I have malaria, then you say that I'm having headache. You could have malaria without headache. Okay, so that was the basic of the Vice President. So when you look at the exchange rate depreciation, you may be other factors.
Okay.
For instance, external attack. Okay. Speculation, which has nothing to do with macroeconomic fundamentals. Speculation, we may say somehow, may have something to do with confidence in your macroeconomy. But for instance, hikes in Federal Reserve rates, it has nothing to do with your macroeconomic fundamentals.
Do you know what I'm deducing from this as we go? It is clear that when you look on the other side, there may be other factors. You may not look at them, but when it's you, then it may be different. There's this saying that we are the best judges of others and the best lawyers for ourselves. But anyway, thank you for joining the conversation, Dr. Mahama. Dr. Kabiru Mahama, he's technical advisor to the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and flag bearer of the MPP. Now, when we return, we still have conversations to come your way. GUTA, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, has announced its intention to establish a social contract with presidential contenders in the upcoming 2024 election. We'll bring you details on that after the break. Do stay. Well, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, they are bringing a new dynamic into our political conversation because they are hoping to get all the key contenders for, key presidential contenders ahead of the 2024 election to sign some sort of document, okay? To have some sort of gentleman's agreement or gentlewoman's agreement, if you like, in terms of what they will deliver. But the question is this feasible? Is it something that these leaders, whichever one comes to power, can even be held to? Joining us for a conversation, we have Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He joins the conversation on this. Doc, good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Right. So we have GUTA opting for this contract, social contract, if you like. It reminds me of my studies in politics, with whoever likely would be president come 2025. But the question is, from its fundamentals, does it hold any water? There are stipulations even in the Constitution in terms of economic benefits that leaders should ensure that our citizenry has. Even that, they don't provide, and no one is able to take them on, even per the Constitution. So how do you think this will work? Is it feasible?
You know, the symbolism is very important, right? So it reminds me of the 1994 midterm elections in the US, where the Republican Party drafted what they call Contract with America. and stipulated these, I think there were about 10 key things that they were going to do if elected to Congress. And for the first time in so many years, they took control, particularly of the House of Representatives, right? And so whilst it wasn't, quote unquote, a signed thing, the symbolism was very important. They framed it as, if you elect us, we will do these things. And if we don't, in the next midterm election, vote us out of power. I see the reverse in in Guta's approach, which is, I'm sure they've heard campaign promises over the years that deals with their quote unquote interest and the interest of the group that they represent. And I'm sure governments have come and gone without them experiencing or seeing the full fulfillment of those promises. So what I'm gathering then is this idea that, okay, we're going to enter into some kind of, like you said, a social contract that says, these are the issues of importance to us as an association and our members and the people or the organizations that we represent. It will be very interesting to see how the candidates respond to it. But it is also election year. And so I can see the candidates responding positively to it. Right?
You think they'll bite? They'll take the bait?
I think so, because I don't think they want to be the one. I mean, if Guta, is that quote unquote strong of an organization that can mobilize, a lot of people going into this election, I don't think any candidate or political party would want to risk being the one that didn't want to enter into this sort of gentle person's agreement.
But technically as well, Doc, I think there's a way of playing this without necessarily getting roped in. If you get into any agreements and you come and you don't fulfill those agreements, it's going to cost you, and it's going to cost you big time. Ghanaians are becoming much more sensitive to promises that are made that are not kept. Would it really be in the interest of these parties to go down that road? Now, here's one thing. The Guta president, Dr. Joseph Obeng, on the back of Dr. Bawumia's policy plan for Ghana, his blueprint, he said that, yes, he was excited, those were his words, about some of what Dr. Bawumia had said in terms of what it would mean for business and even the taxes that would be taken off, e-levy and all of that. That's a slippery slope, very dangerous, because if you look at the 5.9 billion or so that a future Bawumia government, if he gets elected, would lose, then the question is, would he actually be able to stick to his promise? And that's where the devil is. So would it really be in the interest of the parties to go down this road?
Yes, politically it would be. Because like I said, we're going into an election year. I don't think you want to be seen as the candidate or as the party who wasn't willing to, quote unquote, enter into this sort of agreement, even if it's not signed, this symbolic agreement, because you also don't want to create the perception that maybe you don't have any intentions of honoring certain things. That's why you're a little hesitant. I mean, it could be perceived that way.
So
it
this
could
is
also
more
be
cosmetic.
perceived as, please say that again.
So this is more cosmetic rather than we really mean to do this. It's more cosmetic, like, okay, let's join the bandwagon, because if we don't, we may get punished, but we may not necessarily mean to fulfill all of those things.
Well, I think it has, elements of both, right? I mean, the candidate maybe, can be both sincere about it, but also politically calculate that it is in my best interest to be able to do this. At the end of the day, though, it is the enforcement and the accountability of it. If this agreement is not met, I think that becomes the much bigger challenge for Guta. Because if the candidate doesn't, quote unquote, honor the things that are important to you as an organization and to the members of your organization, what do you do? What are the tools that you're going to resort to try and either remind them of, hey, this was your promise to us, or you really have to get this thing going, except for, let's say, if you have to wait till the next election.
All right, so it could be a case of not just Guta, but the generality of the people, once bitten,
Yes.
twice shy. Guta is emphasizing, though, that the agreement will be anchored on the candidate's economic agenda and manifesto pledges. So basically, it appears it's going to be different strokes for different folks. You said this, and for example, Dr. Bawumia, I'm taking away the e-levy, I'm taking away this and that. So they would hold him to that. And then for maybe President Mahama, whatever he would say on the back of the economy, they would hold him to that as well. For whichever other person, whichever other candidate, they would hold them. So it wouldn't be a blueprint for everybody. It's different depending on what you say. That makes it very wide.
But it's also, I think it's also a really good thing, right? That there's this growing consciousness that these politicians, one election after the other, promise a whole lot of things, some of which are not fulfilled. And there has to be a growing sense of, we need to hold you more accountable to these things that you promise us. Because the more promises go unfulfilled, it creates a sense of cynicism among citizens, right? If you look at Dr. Bawumia's speech, in the end, he actually highlights that, right? He makes the statement that, I'm sure you even be tempted, I'm paraphrasing, but something to the effect of, I'm sure you'll be tempted to say, we've heard so many of these ideas and promises before. And that, for me, points to what happens when a lot of these promises go unfulfilled, one election cycle after the other. But I also think that if enough groups, more than just Guta, other groups, and even as citizens, if we become more conscious of this and begin to hold politicians more accountable, even if it means, election, one term and you're out, one term and you're out, I think it would create a different, or at least it would improve the politics a bit in terms of one, being measured in the number of promises made to the people, but also taking more seriously the incentive to fulfill some of those promises, because you know that the people are now fully awake, and non-fulfillment of these promises have major political consequences.
Right. So in the end, what do you make of this call moving forward? How do they actualize this? I mean, from where you sit, you also dabble in some of this. How do you expect them to properly box in these presidential candidates so that what they seek to achieve, they can achieve? And from the standpoint of the political actors and the parties moving forward, what do you think? How do you think they can couch what they are doing in this engagement with Guta? That will be my final bit to you.
Yes. So I'm picturing a scenario where probably Guta would reach out to the candidates and their campaigns, have a number of meetings, iron out what these are supposed to be, and maybe ask that there's some kind of a quote-unquote a document signed. I'm not sure how willing the candidates or the parties will be to sign such a thing. But it's one way that I see this playing out. Or maybe after a series of meetings, a joint statement that says, we met with Guta, they've expressed their concerns, they've expressed their desires, these are the things they want to see, and we pledge to do our very best to meet them in some kind of a joint statement. But that's how I see that playing out. Or the last scenario would be, once the party manifestos are published, Guta then takes its public position on it to say, you have promised these things in your manifesto. This is what we are going to do in terms of, we are going to monitor, etc., and make sure that if elected, these things will be done. And if not done, this is how we would respond as an association.
Well, thank you very much for joining the conversation. Right before you go, though, I see a message from Raymond Abiu. I don't know what your take would be. He says, Guta is doing politics here, and we must not allow this type of behavior. Listening to the Guta president the other day, he came across as someone trying to campaign for Dr. Bawumia. The 2024 election, it goes on and on. But what Guta is fighting for is for business, right? business,
right?
The business community,
yeah.
and they will look out for what is best for them. They've been burnt time and again, so they will look out for what is best for them in terms of doing business and making money. That's the bottom line. Would you fault Dr. Obeng for what he said?
Not at all. And I think this is something that even more interest groups should actually do, right? More of us as citizens should step into that space to say, maybe education is important to me, and I want to see these things happen. Maybe health is important to me. I want to see these things happen. Campaign finance is important to me. I want to see these things happen. I think it really creates more vibrancy in our civic spaces and a way to hold our politicians more accountable.
All right. Well, Dr. Osai Kwapong, we're very grateful for your time with us this morning on this beat. Dr. John Osai Kwapong is a CDD fellow. Still to come, we'll be telling you about the Independence Square and the state of it. We've also got updates on the murder of the owner of the Royal Cozy Hotels, popularly called Drapa Dubai. Really sad incident. We'll be telling you more about that. But up next, we have a conversation with the John Ajekum Kufuor Foundation. Up next, Tuesday.
Having been in the region, for the past 25 years, when I started coming home, I was lacking because it was a newly region being created, and then we needed some facilities. I've seen that most of the facilities are lacking over here, and I wonder how people are transferred here, whether they're also failing things like how the southern side is. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to, put up such facilities, so that to get employment for the youth, and at the same time improve the social life of the people.
And that was the man when he was still among us, when he still walked among us. And now, unfortunately, sadly, his life has been taken away from him. He was stabbed multiple times, and we know for a fact that this was not a natural occurrence. But to give us more scope on what exactly happened, we're joined by Rafiq Salam, who joins us from Drapa. Rafiq, just walk us through one more time. What exactly happened in the last few days, which has brought us to this point where we are talking about this murder that has been committed? And what is the latest in respect of the police and the arrests that have been made?
Snippet of information that we have gathered from Drapa indicates that this alleged crime actually took place on the dead of the night. That was on Sunday, and so it's alleged that the unknown assailant got into the compound of the private residence of Eric Johnson using a ladder from the back of the house. And so when he was aided by the ladder, he jumped into the compound and then got into the hall of the private residence of Eric Johnson. And then after that, he's alleged to have used a master key to open the room of Eric Johnson, met him, who was somehow wearing a towel, believed that he may have come from the bathroom. And so looked at his body, saw a lot of, wounds around his abdomen, around his chest, and also cheeks. That clearly means that these were marks of assault, and then it's indicating that he was allegedly stabbed by this unknown assailant. And then after that, this unknown assailant picked the push key of the car of Eric Johnson, and then drove the car got to the main gate and then honked for his security man to open it to go out. And he finally left the car at the middle of town and went away. So these are the snippets of information that we have gotten from the area. And then also yesterday, when I got to the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, the hotel itself, you know, the private residence or the executive mansion shares a wall with the hotel. So I got to the hotel to speak to workers of the hotel to see what was really happening. All the workers that we attempted to speak to, all of them were muted. They were tight-lipped. They told us that they didn't know anything about what was happening at the place. We tried to put it to them that whether they are aware that their boss is allegedly being killed. They said, no, we are not aware of any other thing. And so we also went our own ways, and then we were able to get into the compound of the executive mansion, and that was where we met the police and met some workers, senior officers, senior workers, you know, senior workers of the management members of the hotel, and they were there with the police, and there were about a dozen policemen stationed at the compound. And after that, the body of Eric, the lifeless body of Eric, was moved to the Upper West Regional Hospital, Hamburg, and that was where he was deposited for further investigation. What we are also told of is that the IGP has dispatched a team of crack CIDs, including the Director General of CID, to come into the region. My information here indicates that he's not in yet. They are not in. That team is yet to you know, to come to the region. We are told that in the next few hours they will be here, and they will just move straight to Jirapa. And so that's the information that we have gotten from the police. So they have started investigation on the issue. They have arrested 5. The first, they arrested 1 person. And
hello, Rafiq. All right, so we appear to have lost contact with Rafiq. We'll try to re-establish contact with Rafiq Salam. But yes, the owner of the Cozy Hills Hotel, popularly known as Drapa Dubai, has lost his life in this gruesome manner. Rafiq, you were making a point. We lost you briefly.
Yeah, I said that the police in the last 24 hours came up with a statement that they have arrested 1 person, and then 3 or so hours later, they also told us that they arrested 4 more, including the deputy CEO of the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, or I prefer to call him the project manager of the place, Michael Kluge. They have been arrested for now, and the police are saying that they are leaving no stone unturned in trying to unravel the mystery surrounding the death of Eric Johnson.
And this is a really sad development. Of course, with the vehicle that was left, some of us would jump to forensics and, you know, all of that. But we'll leave the police to do that work. Before you go, though, how have the people of Drapa, if you've interacted with any of them, apart from the staff at the Cozy Hills Hotel, how have people reacted to this situation? And generally, in security terms, what have you heard?
There's a envelope. The Jirapa city is enveloped with disappointment, sadness, anger, and then also grief, because some of them wish that they have known this unknown assailant, they will have dealt with him. You know, they are really disappointed that this is somebody who came to develop our area. Without Jirapa Cozy Hills Hotel or Jirapa Dubai, nobody will have heard of Jirapa. You know, but this is somebody who has a heart for the area, who had a greater part of his life, about 25 years outside the country, came to develop this area. And then almost all big conferences are in the region were taking place there. And it really increased commercial activities in this area. For 1 person to stab them in the back, they are not really happy about the situation. Some of the people that we spoke to told us that it is not only the people of Jirapa that the unknown assailant has tapped, not only the people of the Upper West region or the Northern Belt, but the whole country. Because this is somebody who loves tourism, who loves to develop his people, who loves to develop, you know, the tourist sites, and so he will be greatly missed. And so the people of Jirapa are really mourning, and they are not in the best of terms. And some of them even will not even speak to us because they are angered about what really transpired, and they think that it has really soiled, the good, the good relationship, the good reputation of the place, because Japa is not going to be a criminal hub, and for something like that to happen, they are not really happy with what transpired the last 24 hours.
You don't have to respond to this question if you don't have the necessary information, but is there any suspicion? I've heard a few things. Is there any suspicion that these assailants may not have come from Japa itself?
From the way that the act was executed, I am not a security man, but you would think that it was done professionally, because the person got it axed very well, starting from when he used a ladder, where he used the ladder, and the way he jumped into the compound of the private residence of Eric. And also the timing, to know that at this particular time, he will be in the room. Akapo have been to the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, and I've been to the private residence of Eric Johnson several times. But you will know which of the rooms that Eric stays. You must be somebody who knows the place very well, who was well guided to know that this is where Eric lives. Because the place where this incident is alleged to have taken place, his room is just like a toilet. You think that the door is for a toilet. And so for somebody to know that this is where somebody lives in that particular place is really surprising. But also let me tell you that Eric has also taken his personal security very seriously. At the executive mansion, the private residence, you can't just enter there without Eric. Nobody have access to this place without Eric. I have been there more than a dozen of times, but I have never entered this room. I have never seen anybody entering this room without you being in his car. You don't even use your own car to enter. He takes you on his car to the place. And so the other thing is that the person, this unknown assailant, the only route after he jumped inside the compound to go out was that route he used, because he couldn't have walked to the security man and asked him to open him, because he must be in the car. Because after jumping, there was no ladder there for him to jump out.
So this person clearly had all the information required to execute this, which points to, in some way, it could be, we're not saying it is, but it could be an inside job, because the person knew that even to get out, there's only one way, and it has to be with the person's vehicle, and then they left it off. But we'll leave the rest to the police.
The other way was also to come from the hotel side and enter, and which is a small door. If you are not an insider, you wouldn't know that there's a door that moves in there. I have seen Eric use that particular door several times. I've never used it until yesterday, when I wanted to enter the place and I was telling the police that I want to enter. They told me that the gates were locked, and I pointed to the police that there's a door here that can lead you to the residence.
Right. Well, Rafiq,
it was there that I went in with the police, and I went into the place.
Thank you, Rafiq Salam, for bringing us the scoop on this really sad development. Not an end you would wish even on your worst enemy. But the police is investigating that, and we'll see what pans out with that owner of Japa Dubai losing his life in this manner. But we come back into the studio, and moving on from that sad situation, it's a bit difficult transitioning like this. But we come back into the studio. We have a conversation with Dr. Pascal Brenya. He is coordinator Kufuor's Scholars Program, and Emanuela Osafwaje. She is an alumna, class of 2022, Kufuor Scholars Program. They both join us with talk about the Kufuor Foundation, especially the scholarship program. Gentlemen, lady, thank you for joining me in the studio.
Thank you for having us.
And yes, we started on a bit of a dour, sad note, but here we are talking about something that is impacting lives. I'll start with you, Dr. Brenya. Tell us a bit about the Kufuor Foundation, especially the Scholarship Foundation?
All right. So the John A. Kufuor Foundation initiative of the former president after he has served his 2 terms. And he gave birth because he said that even as a EU president, everywhere he goes, Africa is the way it is because of bad leadership. And he felt that with the foundation and with the Kufuor Scholars Program, he will be able to make a difference, to produce critical mass. And if it's really so be, then he will see the change in his lifetime. And that is what has journeyed us on till today.
Now that's been a pretty long time.
It has been.
What would you say this foundation has achieved up to this point?
The foundation is set up with 3 areas: development, leadership, and then the third one, which is also very critical, is governance. He believes that you have to join these 3 together to be able to make impact. So the focus is on leadership. And Ben, you know that when it comes to leadership development, which is a human capital development, it doesn't just come handy, and sometimes it's even difficult to quantify it. But I can sit where I sit and I know 111 people who have graduated successfully, into the program. 11
okay.
Who have graduated. Now we are numbering 205. So because we still have 90 scholars on the program from level 200, 300, and 400. So ideally, you come to the program after you have finished your level 100. That's when you applied, and then you go through merit system for you to be called a Kufuor scholar. And that is how it has been since its inception. And then we have been able to pass this number. So recently, we put a caption there: 85-year-old president who is fathering and mentoring 205 scholars. And that is no mean achievement. So that is how we have journeyed on as a foundation, and specifically for the Kufuor Scholars Program, which is for the leadership arm of the foundation.
Let's talk to one such scholar and alumna, Emanuela. How did you get on board? How did you get roped into this, the Kufuor Scholars Foundation?
Well, like Dr. Pascal said, it is a 3-year program, and so they have these reach-out programs that they do on campuses. And so in level 100, actually, there was a K-Talk series where Dr. Pascal came to talk. He introduced the program to us, and funny enough, I was meant to attend a certain tutorial, but our TA told us to leave and go for the program, which I did, and I have not regretted it since. We spoke to Dr. Pascal after the program. He said, look, you need to apply for this. And so that's exactly what I did. There's an application process where you write a lot of essays, you go through interviews, and then you are called. After these interviews, there's this selection process. And so for our batch, we were about 25. That's the class of 2022. So after the selection process, there's a mandatory 2-week camp that you are supposed to attend. If you are not able to attend, it's unfortunate you may not be able to join. And so the 2-week camp is where there's serious critical training going on. You get to meet a lot of mentors. You get to get into a lot of routine. And one special point of this is that Grandpa, who's the former president, we call him Grandpa, he always used to say that Accra is not Ghana and Ghana is not Accra. And so this leadership camp will take place in a remote place, a village. We went to Idra, where every day for 2 weeks, there's a routine. You go through the training. There are the leadership programs, like I mentioned. We have community service as well. And then the programs that we partake in that will help you, ground you, and then induct you into the program.
What would you say this program did in terms of impacting you, shaping you, not just for now, but for the future?
It's done so much for me. It's hard to enumerate, but one such thing is how to be assertive and decide to take decisions wherever you may be, wherever you may find yourself. And also to make the most of what you have. And so recently we went on this trip. It was a West African trip, Francophone, and I had a very great advantage because I speak a little bit of French. And so we went there. It was an inclusive program, and it helped you to really get to know the other people in the region, and also to identify yourself as a Ghanaian and to take initiative. Yes.
I see. Well, that feeds into leadership and governance. One problem I've always had with, and sometimes when you have it, people think you are arrogant or something. I don't think a lot of young people, especially in our tertiary institutions, are not assertive. They're not confident, very confident. And even when they know what they're about, anything can fluster them. But when you have that confidence in yourself, in your core, then, it comes out of you, fire in your belly.
right.
And so if that alone were something that you were walking away with, I would say it was well worth it. But let me ask you, Doc, how many, she mentioned 25 who during your batch, right? How many in all applied, wanted to be on board before these numbers, they are sifted down to these numbers?
We were tasked to select almost about 20 for the first cohort.
Okay.
And then actually we ended up with 14. So that's the pioneer, and we got only 14.
Right.
After that, we sometimes go 25, 30, but we have actually now invested ourselves into 30. So we do 30 every year.
But from what
of about 5,000 and over.
5,000?
Yes, because it's across the entire country, across the entire universities and institutions. So that is a very daunting task. So this is where you need to select, and they go through a lot of process externally. People have to go through their CVs, they have to go through their essays, the references that they need to bring. The good thing about it is that, as you know, the leadership arm of the JK Foundation is not a partisan. So what we do is that it's open to every Ghanaian. And I can tell you, we cover almost all the universities in these countries and every region as well. And then we also make sure that at least we will have Christians, Muslims, and other people all joined together. So it's a fantastic family that is really seeking to cause a change in this country.
So that's a very small percentage, 25 out of about 5,000. That's a pretty small percentage in there. But then again, so with all of what is being done and what has been done over the years, from your standpoint, she has mentioned what impact it has had on her. What impact can you say it has had on all of these alumni who have passed through? What are some of the reports you've got?
Fantastic. We actually produced the first female SRC president from UDS. That is not mean achievement, right? And then it continues. At the moment, we actually have some of them after the program went to Oxford University and the rest of the university in the UK and across. And now we have some who are actually working at TikTok, as a policy advisor. And then we also have them. We actually really realize that this program and the impact it has created, it speaks for itself when you actually speak to these young ones and their shape and mind and how they do things differently and how they cannot survive. We're talking about Linda Kamensa, who stood for SRC president, the only female president. And then he realized that, look, this system, I can't fit in. And at a point in time, he said, you just have to say, I have to let go. Those decisions to us, it shows that this continent have a future. Ben, I tell you, and I think most of the things that you aspire as well, I believe that we missed the base and we are trying to catch up with the pace. And I have opportunity of actually facilitating Yali, which is in West Africa. So it gives me opportunity to talk to these young people. And sometimes when I speak to them, they even believe that in their lifetime, and I'm talking at ages from 18 to 25, in their lifetime, they don't think this continent there will be any change in hope. But I'm seeing the hope, the critical mass. And that is exactly the journey the Kufuor Scholars Program have started. And I can see the results. I see these young guys and the ladies where they are, and then when they make decisions and things that confront them and they sit back and say, I can't be part of it, it makes me really feel that, look, probably this country and maybe the continent is in a good hand for these young people than most of us who are elderly, because they know what they are doing and they really have a passion and they are selfless. And when I sit and I count it one after the other, there's one of them called Esther Spio at Minister of Finance, young lady. When you walk in the first time, they really doubted whether she's school in Ghana. And she said, yes, I went to University of Ghana. And they said, what else? Was it Ashasi? And she said, no, it's a Kufuor Scholars Program. And then we have Ashasi who come with Abigail. Abigail Yara set up a popcorn right at Ashasi campus. Kufuor Scholars have an Ashasi student who actually developed a cocoa pot breaking machine. So if I look at the kind of shaping they do, and one thing that
reorientation
is that
if you like.
Yes, reorientation. One thing is that they also humble themselves regardless of the academic. And I think this is a direct reflection of who the former president is and how he inspires them to sit under his feet.
Right. In the next few minutes, we have to go, but I'd like to find out from you, before I ask you what next for the Scholars Program and the foundation, if you had to sell this program, this foundation, and the benefits you've got, you have to talk to other young people, and I'm sure a lot of them are watching you right now. What would you say to them?
This is a very unique program that borders on mentorship. a lot of the times, most of us young people are told you need to do this and you need to do that, but we're not really provided that training. The Kufuor Scholars Program provides you the mentorship, it provides you the guidance. They take you along on the journey. And so for every single youth, every young person in this country, I believe it's an initiative that you have to take. Join the Kufuor Scholars Program. You need to join this bandwagon because it's going to impact your life positively. It's going to open you up to new opportunities, and it will help you build up your confidence and sort of inspire yourself and to equip yourself to get into the world out there. Thank you.
Well, back to you. What next for the foundation? What next for this Scholars Program?
Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we have in the alumni. So I'm presenting 111, those who have come through the program successfully, to the president at his residence tomorrow. So we are really kind of, inviting corporate Ghana to join, because we believe that this job is a big job. But after we have done, we need a second phase, and that is where they need to test their skills in their various fields of cooperation for the changes to start. Those who have gotten the chance, some of them are at PwC, I think that's where she's doing her national service, and the rest of them. And the other organization that has really come on board to really help us to really make sure that this material that we can testify and we can say this is unique, is making a difference, then they will be able to employ. And Ben, it is really important that you, for instance, need to also come on board. We want you media to come and take some of them and mentor them, because we believe that the responsibility for the change, we need to act it and walk the talk. And that is exactly what the John Kufuor Foundation, and for that matter, the KSB, have started. And it's a big dream. The former president at 85, still, we even check across Africa and we realize that this is the only president who financed his scholars from his own pocket and making sure that this thing sustains itself. And I guess that is what we have been doing ever since it started, and we keep on going. And we see what is coming out. And we sometimes feel that the entire universities in this country will be able to deploy what we call the Kufuor Scholars Program taste.
Right.
To make a difference, because we see what even the changes of just keeping them for 2 weeks, and when they come back, the kind of things they're able to do, their mindset, and what they really want to go, which extent they really want to go.
I think maybe my final word to you would be that, yes, some of us would come on board, but sometimes it's about replicating successes. It's not everyone who may get to be a scholar, but are there systems that can be replicated in the key institutions across the country, the University of Ghana's and other institutions, so that it's not just those who get into the foundation, but how about those who don't, who may have access to other things? Wonderful. These are the future leaders.
So we have what we call, what I wish I knew at level 100.
Right.
This is a student-led project. We have Cell Not Hell, where they go to the prisons to ensure them that, look, they should have the skills before they even come out. They're doing so fantastic. What I wish I knew at level 100 is something that goes across all the campuses. The students organize it, and then we go and help them. And people who have attended this program, we put them together and we call them the Kufuor Scholars Associate. And this associate is open to them. We do a lot of program on Zoom and the rest of them. We invite people so they get to participate as well. So it's kind of widen up, just 30, but it really extends itself beyond that.
Okay, he's had quite a bite. I'll give you 20 seconds, final words.
Well, like I've spoken about, the K-Talk is what I personally benefited from. And then the Cell Not Hell, it's mainly a program centered on climate change, which is a very important topic nowadays. And so Kufuor Scholars are really getting into a lot of things that are important in the world today. And so, yes, I think we should all join. It's a lovely thing. And we'll see you on the 13th of February.
All right. So Linda Akamensa couldn't join us in here, but she's also one of the alumna doing great things. But those who joined us in the studio, Dr. Pascal Brenya, he is coordinator Kufuor Scholars Program, and Emanuela Osafo Ajay also is an alumna. She joined the conversation 2022, right?
2022.
All right. Right before we go, this message comes through from Samuel Mbura, our very own. He says, to my dear sister Faustine Amwa Ohenakwa of Pet Scene Beauty Salon or Salon, I should say, in Bolaga. You are a kind and caring person and deserve the best. God bless you and grant your heart's desires on this memorable day. From Samuel Mbura to you. And that's how we cap off the show. If you're celebrating your birthday, we celebrate you as well. My name is Benjamin Akakwa. I've done this together with Sweetie Abochi. But up next, we serve you on this network, Joy News Desk. Do stay.
Thank you.